OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
Well, David Molloy might be singing just for us here on OTB AM before the month is out, because he did say he would if Italy managed to win the trophy. And, well, I mean, obviously we need a certain top scorer, but like 90 minutes on the clock when we got a goal last night? That might make the singing possible, on. Is that what happened?
89th minute, yeah.
89th minute.
Immobile. That's all we were looking for last night. Forget the fantastic performance. All we're looking for is Immobile to do the business every single game. So I think we're up and running here, right? Like it could be a battle of the ages between Ciro Immobile, Patrick Schick and Romelu Lukaku as the days count down towards the business end of this year's competition.
The Italian Stallions last night have left you purring. You're a big fan of this particular beast.
How could you not be? These stupid, sexy Italians and their suits and their football and their good looks and everything. And they're just perfect, this Italian team. Of course, I mean, they will come up against a good team and they will have to play a game that isn't in Rome, a place where they haven't lost a competitive match since 1953, and I'm sure it'll probably end at some stage. But this is quite the ride. They're a team that a lot of people would have tipped pre-tournament, which is quite funny when you think about it, because they were tipped as a dark horse.
Who said they were a dark horse in this show? I was off that day.
I think
Who used the phrase dark horse about the Italians?
Well, I think
was it you? Did you call them a dark horse?
I don't think I did, but I think that when you look back at the pre-tournament favourites, like how far down the pecking order do you have to be?
16 to 1 is a dark horse. The Italians are not a dark horse under any circumstances in any football tournament ever since the first World Cup.
16 to 1 is a dark horse.
Yeah,
that's where it
anything,
starts.
you have to be, absolutely. Even, like, I might let you grandfather in a 10 to 1, maybe, but nothing like, Italy can't be a dark horse.
I would say Italy were bigger than 10 to 1 at times pre-tournament.
I'm telling you, 16 to 1 is my cut-off point. There's no way they were 16 to 1 pre-tournament.
Yeah, maybe not right pre-tournament, because they've been on this winning run for so long at this point. Like that is the thing that they're going for now. They're 29 unbeaten games in a row. Their 30-game unbeaten run ran from 1935 to 1939. So this is the historical context of this Italian team. So you can't be. You're right. No, you can't be talking about them as a dark horse. I think that maybe that was just maybe spoken in the context of what happened in 2018 or not qualifying for 2018, and that they were certainly on the upward trajectory. It definitely seemed, really doing a bit of reading before the tournament, that the sense was that they really wanted to contend in Qatar and win in Qatar, and that may be down to the age profile in a couple of positions. But really, the players that they have that are leading this team are top-class stars now. It's not like we're looking at Manuel Locatelli as a wunderkind like Pedri, for example. He is somebody who has been rejected by AC Milan. AC Milan brought in Tiamue Bakayoko a couple of years ago. He moved to Sassuolo and said, I wasn't being backed by AC Milan. This is a guy who's been through that down and up in his career already. These are not people who are, wide-eyed and in a state of wonder about a tournament. These are relatively experienced players, and they're cresting towards a really good level at this point.
Yeah.
The same goes for the likes of Berardi and Barella. And there are certain players obviously we haven't even seen, like Marco Verratti. The question is, does he get back in the team? There was the question around Pellegrini pre-tournament. He was supposed to be the goal-scoring midfielder. Locatelli is not supposed to be a goal-scoring midfielder whatsoever. So it's odd that he had this moment last night, but then again, odd things happen at tournaments.
The spider cam for his first goal last night was sensational. Just the speed at which he busts along to make the run into the box and keep going when his direct opponent just slows down. That moment where you can actually see the goal being scored before it's scored, obviously in the replay, is fairly sensational. And obviously we were denied spider cam as a result of that protest the other night. I mean, who knows what great footage there would have been from that. They were great to watch. There was like an attacking brio and a verve from them. The exact opposite of Catenaccio, and I don't know, just really, really good to see that. And again, I just keep coming back to this, like, international football is way better. It may not be better, but it's way better because it is actual countries as opposed to a football team bought by a country playing against each other with a collection of superstars. It does genuinely matter more. Now, maybe this is the first time that we've seen these big crowds this into games in such a long period of time, and that's somehow skewing my sense of what's going on. But watching the Italians, watching the Welsh against a partisan group of fans in Turkey, that was brilliant. And I don't know, just even the Finns seem to be playing a weird style of I don't care attacking football that was like worth sitting down and spending some time with yesterday afternoon.
Like, and I think that you were kind of talking the other day about where football is going. We're going to go back to long shots at some point soon. Like, I think the way football is being played at the moment, the high pace, and if it's not a high level of pace that you're bringing to proceedings, it's nice midfield passing. It's one or the other. Both of them are pretty easy to watch, and both and all teams tend to be playing one of those two styles at the moment. Like, if Italy have ditched Catenaccio, then football must be in a pretty good place. Like, and I think that's what we're seeing. I think the fact that we've had to wait 3 years since an international tournament probably feeds into that a little bit, and we've had to wait quite a long time for a run of games with fans in stadiums helps our enjoyment from it. But
and like, here's the thing: are we not now just about to be rewarded for the shittiest period in sports fans' history since the Second World War, with like the greatest period in sports fans' history since the Second World War, where everything gets constituted into the next 18 months. In the next 18 months, we're going to have this again, except it's a World Cup in Qatar. Like, I know all the human rights stuff is very important, and I'm not diminishing that, but just in pure footballing terms, the football we're seeing now, really, really good. Then there's going to be like the league campaign and the Champions League, whatever. And then there's going to be another World Cup by Christmas next year.
And that's my enthusiasm was on the up there until you said in Qatar, and like, I mean, the possibilities that every World Cup has are always incredible. And like, you think about what the 2026 World Cup might look like in the States and Canada and Mexico, and this amazing sprawling mega event. It'll be just very interesting to see what that looks like at the end of next year and what the enthusiasm levels will be like, because you cannot represent it, you cannot remove a football tournament from the context. And you've been banging on about how great this tournament has been with all these multiple different cities around Europe. Like, that is part of it. You can't separate it from it. So there will be a Qatar imprint on that football tournament next year. So far it's been a totally negative imprint. Can it be a positive imprint on some level next year? I'm not so sure. But the football itself is going to be...
Yeah, but I think sport washing works. That's what everybody understands. Sports washing has always worked. Maybe with the... And even then, it's hard to know, with the Berlin Olympics in 1936. Like, to one aspect or another, sports washing always works. And so I guarantee you that we're going to be talking about the genius of Phil Foden and the new superstars of world football who emerge in the World Cup in Qatar. And that's what they're banking on. And they're banking on us being as excited about that happening then as I'm already excited about the World Cup happening from a football perspective.
Yeah, like, I just think that we've been... Part of our conversation is about the partisan fans in Baku last night. Not saying that Azerbaijan is a stand-up democracy or anything like that, but we've also had conversations about how the Olympic Stadium in Rome just like gives you tournament feelings, and like all these different parts of the continent have fed into it. Even the Wembley aspect of the England charge towards this title has been relatively interesting, and Hampden, like, so it's just like what is the Qatari imprint on that going to be? Of course, the footballers is the part of the sports washing, as you say, and that's not going to change. It's just about what is going to be the festival atmosphere that's actually going to be brought from that specific country, which is going to be really interesting.
Italy were 8-1 pre-tournament, not dark horses. Far from
8-1's not dark horses.
Far from big dark horses. Just on the Welsh front, people are saying Aaron Ramsey does this a lot. I saw somebody in the Telegraph say, you know, he has that ability to be Roy of the Rovers in the same way as Steven Gerrard and Roy Keane. I'm like, I didn't know that Ramsey had those types of performances. I would have said that was an all-time career performance from Ramsey, was it not? Does he do that? You've obviously watched it a lot closer than I have over the years.
I don't think he's been doing that recently for Juventus. Like, I think that when he was at Arsenal, there was those couple of seasons when he sort of realised that he was actually a grown man and played out of his skin, started scoring goals. People started to have him in his fantasy football team when people were previously like, this guy's a holding midfielder. And all of a sudden he turned into like this attacking midfielder who was actually getting into the box, scoring goals. And there was that transformation. There was a massive kick on. I'm not sure has that happened for him at Juventus at any point. So maybe it comes with some surprise that he was all of a sudden this kind of making these lung bursting runs into the opposition box and looking so dangerous yesterday. Like, I think that, and I'm sure a lot of other people had this feeling watching this Welsh team, because I guess Ireland have played them quite a lot over the last few years. You're looking at this through the prism of, could we do this? Could Ireland be doing what Wales are doing, considering, you know, the reason why Wales didn't play at the last World Cup is because James McLean scored a goal against them and Ireland beat them in Cardiff. But I think that there comes a point at a major tournament where Ireland couldn't do that, because Wales have players like Aaron Ramsey and Gareth Bale.
Yeah, I mean,
the list is complete there. And if those two players are stepping up, then there are a good few teams at the European Championships who will be beaten by this Welsh team, and two of them were excellent yesterday.
Watching Wales yesterday reminded me a little bit about what it used to be like watching Ireland when we had Duffer and Robbie. It was like, oh, we have players who are going to be able to take this game with the scruff of the neck and win it, almost irrespective of what happens. Or at least we are in this game, irrespective of what happens. And our supporting cast was obviously pretty good when they were at it too. And then you go back like a couple of years before that, when we actually had Roy Keane controlling games. It was like, international football is really good. If only we could get back to that again, eh? 1890. No, that's not right. 087 9 180 180 is the WhatsApp number if you want to get in touch with us. 087 9 180 180. That's the WhatsApp number. And you can leave a comment on the YouTube stream as well. We'd love to hear from you this morning about the Welsh or the Italians or whatever it is that you're having. The Mirror, though, they're not having any of it. The big question they're asking this morning is, can anyone stop Pep's champs? Really reading the room there. They've got the fixture list. It's a 4-page pullout, so in fairness, it's a throwaway if you want to. And they do obviously have loads of Euros coverage as well, so calm down all the Mirror fans out there before you come at me. I want to tell you what's coming up in the show between now and 10 a.m. Really busy show for you. Loads of brilliant stuff coming your way. Graham Hunter's standing by. We're going to talk to him in just a moment. Eric Donovan has launched a new podcast called Hooked on Health on the Go Loud podcast network. We're going to speak to him about that and some of the great guests that he has coming up over the next while, and also a little bit about his hopefully imminent European title fight. Passing It On is our new series in association with Gillette. We'll tell you more about that around about 8:20 this morning. Sports news at 8:40. We've got the football pod discussion with Paddy and Andy. Tommy Rooney coming on to justify another hour and a half spent talking about Meath in the aftermath. I'm only joking, they didn't. I don't even know if they mentioned Meath in this week's one. I haven't finished it yet. US Open with Joe Molloy, and then Ronan O'Gara, goodness, coming your way at 9:30 this morning. We'll get to Graham in just a moment. The news, obviously, yesterday we were talking with Nathan about Cillian O'Connor and the potential for him being out because he limped off with what looked like an injury in the ankle area, and we were uncertain about what was happening. But Mayo released a statement yesterday around noon, and it was everybody's worst fears. It was actually worse than their worst fears. It's some kind of Achilles injury that requires surgical intervention. And is this it for Mayo? Are you sticking a fork in Mayo? Are they done? Are they suddenly down to 8th in your power ranking zone?
Like, I think they're not. I think they are still a top 4 team, because they will almost certainly lose an All-Ireland semi-final to Dublin this year. I think that's just what's going to happen. I think that unfortunately the back door just takes away any of the guesswork we have to do with this. Even with Cillian O'Connor missing, I still would make them favourites against Galway and Roscommon. I think that there is still a bit of a gap there. Maybe Division 2 has held them back, but I still think that the quality elsewhere has come on. Like, let's not forget that they had the 3 nominees for Young Footballer of the Year last year. They were trending in the right direction outside of Cillian, even though he was their best player last year. And that should be enough to give them a very good chance of still winning Connacht. But they will almost certainly lose to Dublin in the All-Ireland semi-final. Yeah,
I mean, so whoever they play, Roscommon and Galway are up against each other, right? So, but I think whoever comes through that game, I would actually make them favourites on the day. I know, depending on injuries and form, and let's see exactly what happens and how Galway or Roscommon play in that match. But I don't know, I'd be very, very concerned for Mayo. And look, it's really... It's terrible for Cillian O'Connor. I made the point yesterday that the football championship is better with Cillian O'Connor in it. There aren't many players who you can say have such a titanic impact on the entire football championship, because, you know, if Mayo are playing Kerry or Mayo are playing Dublin without Cillian O'Connor, you can't see them winning that match. And again, there are very few individuals who have that impact, where you can just about see them beating Kerry, and you can certainly see them at least giving Dublin a game, this Dublin team this year, if he's playing. But that's impossible, I think, without him.
Like, it's great. Yeah, I'm not sure how possible it would have been even with him in the team, unless we really are seeing Dublin starting to fade a little bit. But I don't think they've shown enough of that for that to have actually happened this year. So he's an enormous loss for Mayo's chances.
And for the football championship, really. Like, I think it takes them entirely out of the conversation as potential All-Ireland winners this year. I know you're saying you weren't sure if they were there or not, but like, you know, quietly coming through Division 2, all those young lads improving a little bit, everybody fit, them rampaging through Connacht and suddenly giving themselves and backing themselves against a Dublin side who were untested in an All-Ireland semi-final. You know, we've seen them raise that game. We've written them off before. We've said they're 5 to 7 point underdogs, and all of a sudden they're a point up in stoppage time.
Like, hasn't happened in a while though, is the thing. Like, we're going back 4 years to find that argument. Like, there's a lot of water under the bridge. There's a great Mayo team who have essentially departed in the space of 4 years. They got hockeyed in 2019. They got beaten comfortably last year. They're the last 2 games we have to go on in Mayo Dublin. For me, Mayo to have any chance against Dublin needed to be fully loaded. So
the Dubs have also lost the team since then. That's the point, and that's the point I think Pat Spillane was making yesterday about it being now or never. He's like, the Dubs, we're still blah blah blahing the Dubs strength and depth, but like, everybody's older. Everybody is not up against the same calibre of person in training. That A versus B game is suddenly an absolute walk in the park for the A team.
But they've played each other twice since then. If you're talking about Dublin and their players who've retired since 2017, they have played Mayo twice. And
well, Dublin lost a lot of players over the last winter. Like, Dublin lost a lot of players over the previous winter, and they might have, like, so Mannion's gone. You know the list of players. It's Paddy Andrews is gone. Michael Darmacawley is gone. Like, that's what I'm saying. All those, Brogan's gone. Like, I just think that's...
Like, Brogan was gone before the All-Ireland last year.
Yeah, okay, but the others weren't.
Yeah,
There's a constant weakening of that team, is my point. And that this was the year for everybody to kind of finally go, right, this is somewhat of a level playing field. I look at the Dublin bench now, and you're thinking, Grant, our bench is just as good as that.
Yeah, kind of. My point is just that I don't think the gap between Mayo and Dublin has necessarily narrowed over the last 4 years. I think that at best, from a Mayo standpoint, it's actually stayed the same. And with Cillian O'Connor's injury now, then it's just gone in Dublin's favour once again, were they to meet later on this year. So I think I would comfortably have predicted Dublin to win that All-Ireland semi-final anyway, and now it's near certainty. But that's exactly what Mayo want to hear, and it'll give them an unbelievable cause now for the next couple of months. All
right, 7:48 this morning here on OTB AM. Delighted to say Graham Hunter is with us. Graham, how are you?
Yeah, good chaps.
How has the Euros cavalcade been for you so far?
It's a mixture of interesting and frustrating. When you're working on one team, you don't always get to watch all the other games as closely as you would want to. That's a bit of a frustration, but being dedicated to one team is fun. Frustration mounted obviously at the beginning of the tournament, because just like the players were kept separate from one another, we in the media were kept separate from Spain because of the false positive for Diego Llorente and because of the positive COVID test for Busquets, who, in all honesty, was asymptomatic, but precautions had to be taken. I'd expect him to be back with the squad in the next 24, 48 hours. And that meant a complete shutdown, really, in terms of, not in terms of Spain's work, but in the build-up to the Sweden game, the access was much more limited, because it's a in my opinion, for a team coached by Luis Enrique, the access now is much more liberal. He seems in good humour. Certainly I get on well with him. And the plans were that we would be really sort of getting our fill until the problem struck. As soon as the squad began to train fully, which was Friday evening, there was sort of a complete change again, and there are players being put up for interview. The game itself, frustration again too, because you look at the score and you look at how Portugal got themselves out of a sticky situation. You look at how Wales played in the first 60 minutes of the game against Switzerland, and Wales are now through. They were being torn apart as far as I was concerned in the first game. Now, a hard-fought draw and a win and a through. And you look at Spain and you think, yeah, this is a frustrating beat, because I genuinely thought that they played creatively and aggressively, and reasonably attractively too against Sweden, and albeit that Sweden missed 2 good chances, Spain missed about 10, and now the pressure is hugely upon them again, and Lewandowski is looming, and should they go 1-0 down instead of 1-0 up, that there's going to be a maelstrom of pressure upon them. So I go back to my point. It's been a mixture of interesting and frustrating.
I was listening to your podcast, and you were talking about Pedri impressing you with the statement where he went back and spoke about all his coaches and coming out after that. And also Moreno, it sounds like he's going to be a little bit of a cause célèbre if he doesn't get picked in the next game.
I agree. One of the things we were able to do, first of all, when he came on against Sweden, was check and see that, because I was pre-match, I got what's called a coach on arrival interview. So you're in the stadium in La Cartuja, and Luis Enrique will come and sort of present down the line of probably 3 broadcasters. We were third, and I said, what's the final training session really for? You know, is it just declaration? Do you have your team in mind? And he said, look, I really like the final training session. You don't do any tactical work. He said, you might reinforce a couple of concepts, but you just get a feel for the stadium. You try and build the energy and the adrenaline, and it's a moment when the players really start to focus on the game, etc., etc. He said that there's always a couple, I've got 9 or 10 in my team in my mind, but there's always a couple of little bumps and bangs and moans, and you work out if players are going to be ready. So from pre-match, I was thinking, I wonder who that is. Ferran Torres, for example, had a big bandage on his ankle, played through the training session, did his best the next day. Maybe he was one of them. Then Gerard Moreno doesn't start. And the obvious thing is that he has to start. So you're left wondering, was there a slight air of precaution in not bringing him on until relatively late in the game? And the roar he got when he came on, and he was useful enough once he came on. So in training the next day, you're looking at him and he's gambling around like a spring lamb, looking happy as anything. So you can only deduce that Luis Enrique thought, I like this combination of 3 up front, which is Olmo and Torres and Alvaro Morata. And it just feels a little bit unusual because Gerard Moreno is in the form of his life. He's never scored and made more than he did this season. He's won a European trophy. And whether or not Alvaro Morata is misfiring, I am one of those who would say, look, he keeps getting himself in good chance areas, and it's frustrating that against Portugal 0-0 and Sweden, he hasn't converted any of them. But I think it's coming. The 2 of them can play together, definitely can, and therefore, cause celebrity, you said, now it would be, because he's patently not injured or trying to. Sometimes they call it here sobrecarga, which I think when your muscles are a little bit overloaded, and the physios and fitness people will say, look, it's better not to give him 90 minutes now because there's a possibility of an injury occurring. I don't think even that was the case. So it was a slightly unusual decision, and at a time when they've gone 2 consecutive internationals, if you rule out the Lithuanian one where they played the entire under-21 squad because of the COVID protocols, 2 straight games without a goal and no Gerard Moreno, it can't happen again. It won't happen again. I think he starts against Poland. And for my personal taste, I'd love to see him starting with Alvaro Morata and being fed by Pedri. Because as the match went in La Cartuja and Seville against Sweden, maybe Pedri, to those who haven't watched him for Barcelona, people thought, well, that's quite good for an 18-year-old. There is more to come. I don't think he was nervous, but I do think that the pitch was a bit spongy, a bit slow. I think, and I asked him, the possession stats, the pass accuracy, really high. So the Portugal and the Sweden games, the pass accuracy is about 91% across the whole team, across the entire 90 minutes each time. And in the possession states against Sweden, it was about 83, and against Portugal, it was about 65. So shouldn't you lower those stats by taking more creative risks, accepting occasionally you lose possession, but because the killer pass needs to be taken? And he was all for that. He said, yeah, we have to take more risks. And I think they do. That ball where you're like, I see it, we're in harmony, and we risk it, and it goes early, and that opens space up. I think that's going to be a factor in the next game against Poland. And Pedri, it was a nice touch. Maybe listeners and viewers to Football AM think, well, it's not a big deal, and I wouldn't be making a huge deal of it. But the first thing he said when he spoke, which was his first Spain press conference, he went, the press officer said, look, Pedri wants to make a statement, and he just did. He said, look, everybody's making a fuss about me being the youngest Spain player ever at a European Championship, and I owe it all to my coaches from the first. It's galling for a man of my age to hear an 18-year-old say, when I was a kid. When I was a kid, from the first coaches I had then, through Pepe Mel, who was a Scottish Las Palmas, Ron Koeman and Luis Enrique, on behalf of me and my family, you've made me into this, so thank you. And I just, it's a little detail, but I liked it.
The point about the killer pass, right? It seems like it's not quite a culture war at the moment, but there's a style of play that France have been criticised for when they've got this luxuriously gifted team who aren't trying those killer passes. Are they not trying the killer pass because they don't need to? Are they capable of doing it when they need to? Let's wait and see. I'm going to withhold judgment. I think they probably will become a bit more risky as the tournament goes on when they need to win games. But where are we at the moment? And is there anything that we can begin to study as this tournament progresses to see what the trend is in world football at the moment?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not entirely sure. And one of the teams who would be the opposite of what you described, Germany, had they better strikers, if they were on form, they would have been one of the exponents of playing high, taking risks, making those killer passes. And I thought their effort was fantastic. I think they're... I hate saying this out loud about the Mannschaft, because over my lifetime, you're like, just don't even bother writing Germany off. Don't do it. Learn. But here we go. They look as if they're going to detract from that trend of teams who want to play high and entertain and play killer passes, because if Holland and Werner are two of your outlets when you're struggling, each of them are very idiosyncratic, erratic strikers, particularly at the international level, in my opinion. And I think even though it's Germany at home in Munich again, even though they made a big charge at France, and France played counter-attack football, which did disappoint me a little bit. On another night, the offsides are, you're on that right side of the line, and maybe they win 3-0, and it looks like an historic result. And right now, Didier Deschamps, if he was entering into your debate, would be saying, well, we've got 3 points. I think I'm certainly play the weakest in the group. Next, Hungary. End of second game, if they play to form, they'll be through. They can experiment or rest in the third, blah, 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 blah. So it was odd to watch France, and it was a bit frustrating because they are capable of so much better. And it looked to me as if Benson was a bit frustrated too. And Griezmann didn't have his best game. He worked like an absolute soldier. So if you want Spain to come into that debate, we were talking about nuances, aren't we, Ger? Because nobody should be confused. They know themselves that they don't have players in midfield of the caliber of Xavi and Iniesta and Xabi Alonso, and Busquets wasn't there. And as good as Gerard Moreno is, they don't have strikers of the caliber of Fernando Torres and David Villa. So they're not the same caliber of the side that won three strict tournaments. But they are daring. They are. And they do accept risk. I think that they just let themselves down a little bit, because that instinctive run and pass where you see the click of people who've worked together constantly, that was absent. And I think you can look over your shoulder and say, well, that missed friendly against Lithuania on almost all the sides of this tournament, whether it's the sides that play slightly more contained counter-attacking football, or the ones that like to pass and be aggressive and be high up the pitch. They all had 2 or 3 friendlies. Spain had 1. And in my view, we probably saw just the merest hint of rust in terms of just the clinical nature of the finishing. But I think the quicker the passes flow, the quicker the runs, the more automatic the movement is for Spain. They still should, Lewandowski or not. Okay, he hasn't scored a lot of goals, but for Poland recently. I still think Spain are not only good enough to beat Poland, but then good enough to beat Slovakia and not win the tournament, but I think go forward. And for example, if you pitch them against an entertaining side, if you pitch them against England, I think you would see a really entertaining game, because Luis Enrique's idea is not hold possession and use it and draw the other team and then counterpunch. He wants to play high up the pitch. He wants to press and rob and create chances and score. And he's the type of coach like Mancini, for example, who's the other exponent of what you'd love to see. If they're 2-0 up and there's 10 minutes left, you won't see Luis Enrique saying, foot off the pedal, conserve that. He'll say, we play for the third goal. So Mancini and Luis Enrique have similar ideas, Roma man or Lazio man, about how the game should be played, particularly as national team coaches.
What then is the massive difference in the playing personnel they have at their disposal, in your view?
Between the two sides?
Yeah.
Between Italy and Spain? Or?
Yeah, if we pick up on Italy, just because they're trending, I guess, after last night.
I would say it helped them very much who they played. If you compare Italy's two rivals to Sweden, Sweden were extremely defensive. To Lustig after the match, he said, look, we didn't want to be that much of a bank defence. We didn't want to be unable to put 3 straight passes together. But when they found, they saw what the weather was like, and they were like, we'll put our umbrella up here. And they did. And I don't think that's really what Italy faced. Italy have been in slightly better form than I imagined coming in. I have a colleague, Paolo Mancucci, who said to me, look out. Italy are dark horses to win this tournament. They're playing beautifully. The qualification campaign was extremely good, but you look at the first 11 and you think, well, they have to be brilliant as a unit. There has to be, the expression is, some of the parts are greater or lesser than the whole. And in this instance, I think that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. You look at the 11, okay, and if you reach for his first 2, as a unit, they're playing really confidently, really daringly. And I think Spain's pitch didn't help. It was burned out. The Federation handed control of the pitch after the Copa del Rey final, when Barca beat Athletic Bilbao so comfortably in a good game, 4-0. It handed control to the local Andalusian FA, and the pitch could be quicker. It's a bit spongy. I haven't been in Rome, I don't know, but the ball seemed to be fizzing. Italy are playing with a huge amount of confidence. I liked watching, for example, Insigne. Locatelli obviously was brilliant. Never mind the goals, just the movement for the second goal, where off his weaker foot he's volleying off his left foot a pass down to the right and getting the return and finishing like that. That's a goal I'll remember for whether it's goal of the tournament or not. And please don't mention Chick. That's a goal I'll treasure for a long time. And it was ultra daring. I mean, it was genuinely absolute. I think that it was at Peretti who made the 1-2. It was absolutely beautiful. So there was, for Italy at the moment, again, in my opinion, I think man for man, Spain are at least equal, maybe a little bit of ahead. But there feels like more Mancini momentum in that all the players are crystal clear about how he wants them to play. He definitely has a foot on the pedal at 2-0 up, man. It's the reason they scored each of their goal number 3 late in both the games. And listen, they're really funny to watch. I mean, I work with somebody who doesn't watch a lot of football because his focus is a camera, and he's like, rightly still Catenaccio. It sounds odd even to say it out loud. I was like, no, look out. Mancini's idea about football is completely different, certainly from when I was growing up. It couldn't be more opposed. And it's really fun to watch. And I think Spain have that in the tank. I think they have the same thing in the tank. But the pressure is on them now. They didn't get a big result first game, and therefore it's not like swaggering into the Poland game. There has to be some nerves.
Yeah.
There'll be a big decision to be made about do they start with Morata or do they go Olmo, Torres and Gerrard? So, boys, that's what's coming on Saturday against Poland.
Well, there's plenty of jeopardy for it. I've got 2 minutes left, and I've got 2 quick questions to ask you. First one is, where does Sergio Ramos play football next season?
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody knows, but I don't know. I'm being advised that I was checking at Seville last night, and it was difficult but not impossible. I struggle to see Pep Guardiola loving the current Sergio Ramos, not the player on the pitch, because he'll be back and pretty strong, but the way he behaves, like I'm the boss of everything. I think that's not necessarily a match made in heaven. You give Pep Guardiola Sergio Ramos from 2-3 years ago, he bites your hand off. My opinion is, my guess is PSG.
Okay, that would make sense. And then, how are you feeling about the game tomorrow night?
Yeah, if you're talking about Wembley,
yeah,
then nervous, obviously, like a cat would look at a river. Since 1872, there have only been 3 0-0 draws. None of them have been at Wembley. I'd bite your hand off for that now. Bite your hand off then. FA Cup final against Croatia, where we win and we get third place and we qualify for it. There you are. That's all I want. Anti-football. Don't care. Give me a point. Lads, give me a point.
Is this not the time when England's coruscating arrogance...
Don't know ifs and buts. I've stated my case, Jeff.
Gets punctured.
Give me a point.
An overhead bicycle kick by John McGinn in the 90th minute. Thanks very much.
Stop. Don't make me dream. Don't make me hope.
That's the whole point of this. Hope is a dangerous
thing. Give me a point.
I'll give you a point.
Can I be clearer? Give me a point.
Graham,
thank you.
Good stuff. Thanks a million. Take care.
Cheers, lads.
Graham Hunter giving us some thoughts there on the trail of Spain in the Euros. We'll check back in with him again very soon. Shifty Lad on YouTube says, morning lads, I don't care about all the long range goals, etc., but Locatelli's first goal was just the best. Brilliant desire and energy, totally un-Italian back through history. The desire and the energy, I think, is very Italian. It's the forward thinking and the aggressive passing and the thrusting modernism that's different, right? And the Tardelli celebration, the lifting of the jersey up and down. I can't remember, was that for the first or the second goal, in a pretty obvious nod. And also, I mean, he's Locatelli stepped right into this space of being a Euro 2020 footballer. He too moved bottles of Coca-Cola in the aftermath of the game. So he knows how to be Cristiano Ronaldo on some level. It's become a thing really quickly, and also you get loads of publicity for it. So particularly if you are thinking that at some point you might be able to add a couple of zeros to your pay packet after this tournament, which I'm sure he is. Right, it's, 8 minutes past 8 exactly this morning, this Thursday morning here on OTB AM. A very, very busy show between now and 10 o'clock. We're going to hear from the Brogans, Alan and his dad. We've got golf with Joe Molloy and John Duggan. We're back after these, talking to Irish boxer Eric Donovan.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
Well, Conte Party Euro. If Italy win the Euros and Immobile's top goal scorer, I'll sing the entire song for you in Italian.
Hey!
Myself and Immobile on top, over my shoulder.
Well, perfect.
Those guys are looking at him with big eyes and almost like if he was a god almost. So I think the fact that he came back has certainly brought something very different to that squad in a very positive way, which I think can help the team now go in and win this tournament.
For the best Euro 2020 coverage, download the OTB Sports app and subscribe to the OTB Football Podcast.
Why not check out the Boyle Sports betting app for a full range of markets on shots on target, assists, passes and more on every match of the Euros, all powered by Opta. Rated 4.5 stars on the App Store, you'll find all our latest odds and offers for the Euros. So remind us where to go, Stevie G.
Boyle Sports. This is betting.
18 plus, bet responsibly, gamblingcare.ie.
Sean, what's that thing going round the garden?
That is our new Husqvarna Auto Mower.
Auto mower?
Yeah, it's a robotic lawnmower from Husqvarna. Cuts the grass automatically, has GPS tracking and an app. Even works in the rain. I just thought, why spend time cutting grass when I could spend it with the family?
Great! You can put the dinner on, so...
No can do, love. Have to paint the man cave.
Husqvarna Auto Mower. Never mow again. Learn more at husqvarna.ie.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
Now, I want to tell you about something very exciting. It's the Hooked on Health podcast. It's a weekly window into the human spirit and its ability to overcome almost anything. A Go Loud original series. Host Eric Donovan sits down with guests every week from every walk of life for searingly honest chats about health, fitness and mental well-being. Episode 1 of the Hooked on Health podcast is now available with 7-time All-Ireland club football winner with our man Crossmaglen, Oisin McConville. In this clip, the 2-time All-Star opened up on how his confident demeanour on the pitch hid the issues he was contending with off it.
I don't know if you remember a guy called Eric Cantona who played with Leeds and then he went on to play with Man United very, very successfully.
Absolutely.
But in 1999, he was the only guy I knew who wore his collar up. But there was one other guy who wore his collar up and he played GAA, and it was me. And the reason why I wore my collar up, to distract people away from the person that I was, and to put an image out there that people would never think, this guy is struggling, this guy has his insecurities or whatever. And when I talk to people who I played against, they'd say, oh, you were a cocky, arrogant so-and-so when you played football against you. I was actually the opposite of that. I was an insecure little boy, but I wouldn't want anybody to see that because I seen that as a sign of weakness. And that, in a nutshell, sort of sums my 16 years up. I don't even have to talk about gambling, where it brought me and all those things. That, in a nutshell, sums me up because for 16 years, I was living a lie, and the pressure of living that lie is unbelievable. And when you talk to people who are in recovery or who are seeking help or getting help, they'll talk about the freedom, and that was the biggest thing for me. It wasn't the finances or anything like that. It was the freedom to try and be the person that I wanted to be then. That might sound airy-fairy, but that's exactly the way it was for me.
Great stuff there from Oisin McConville. Great stuff too from Eric Donovan. Eric, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Ger. How are you?
It's been a long time in the making, but finally the first episode goes live. You must be feeling like, watching your kid play sport for the first time.
Yeah, it's something like that. All right. I was just talking to Will O'Callaghan. Will is my producer, and we've been working on this for quite a while. And I was telling Will yesterday, I'm very nervous. I'm very nervous about all of this. Like, I do interviews without ever even thinking about it. I'm on the other side of the mic and I'm answering the questions, and I'm okay with that. And that's kind of been the pattern of my life anyway, through sport and other areas as well. But now I'm on the other side. I'm asking the questions. I'm the host. And I said I'm very nervous about this. But you know what? I'm very excited as well, because it's the kind of chats and discussions that I enjoy having with people. It's just real talk, really, just about, everything and anything from that goes on in human beings' lives.
You've got a real curiosity about these people. What do you want to find out about them? What are you trying to uncover when you are chatting to them, or what are you kind of trying to learn for yourself even?
Well, I suppose this was kind of triggered through the whole the pandemic, the lockdown. It made a lot of people stop, regroup, have a look at things, and kind of just put things into perspective. And I just, when I was approached about getting the podcast going, I was just thinking this is a really good time to kind of touch base with people and see how they are. People are really being honest about how they're feeling, and there's a lot more stigma lifted around mental health and emotional health, and we're talking a lot more. And I just said, I have some wonderful conversations on a daily basis, weekly basis with people, and I just said, wouldn't it be great if we could air some of these conversations? And I identified a few, high-profile people across Ireland who I knew were kind of okay with sharing their story, but I kind of have to, if you want people to talk, and you want people to talk openly and honestly about, their heaviest, their heaviest feelings and their darkest thoughts, and but also the good times as well. But if you want people to talk about the tough stuff, the stuff that we find uncomfortable to talk about, then you have to give a bit to them as well. So I don't mind opening up with them. If I'm looking for them to open up with me, I got to open up back to them. So we're trying to create that dialogue, and just to kind of give the listener an understanding that, everything is not, and social media can sometimes, everything is not rosy basically. And social media can sometimes portray that there's these perfect lives out there. There's no such thing as a perfect life, and we're all capable of, we all fall down, and we're all capable of getting back up. And so that's the kind of chats I want to give to people, interesting chats, but about people who are successful, but have went through a bit of adversity in their life, have fell down, have messed up, have screwed up, like myself, but turned it around, And that's what I'm trying to do, just to kind of give the listeners a bit of inspiration and a bit of hope, basically.
Well, that's the thing, because like I'm sure a lot of people listen sometimes and go, Jesus, this is just unmitigated misery. But the whole point about this is that there is recovery, there is an opportunity at the end, there is a way of navigating from those dark places. And I think your point about sharing your own story as well, it can't be easy to keep going back to that well.
No, it's not, sure. Like, I was in Intel there yesterday. I had a couple of talks in there yesterday. I was speaking with the staff of PJ Hegarty and Sons. So, like, they invited me in. There's Men's Health Week going on in there. But I was just telling them, look, I know it's Men's Health Week in here, and that's great. And it's highlighted, but it's Men's Health Week every week, and it's Women's Health Week every week, and it's Children's Health Week every week, you know. But, yeah, look, sometimes I've said this before, when I open up, I feel exposed. I do, and I feel a little bit uneasy. Sometimes I feel a little bit uneasy afterwards, but it's a small price to pay. You know, if there's people reaching out to you, telling you that, like, your words has made all the difference for them. You know, your words has helped somebody to get up out of bed today. You know, that's a small price to pay, I think. So that's why I do it. I continue to do it. Will I always do it? I don't know. Maybe. You know, but I try to just stay in the present, you know, and I just try and offer a little bit of, I'll say a voice, but I just share. Look, we learn. I think the greatest learning is through story, you know, the greatest teaching is through storytelling, and the greatest learning is through hearing stories, you know. And if people can hear real life stories of somebody who has represented their country, somebody who has been at the top level, somebody who's played inter-county, won All-Ireland, somebody who's an all-star, somebody who is European running athletic champion, football and soccer and all different sports, and then successful people in other areas as well, academically, you know, and business. And, you know, if people can hear stories of these real people from all walks of life who have fallen down, who have messed up, who've come from all different backgrounds, then they feel it's okay for me to feel this way. You know, it's okay for me to fail on this occasion, because failure is not a permanent thing. I always say this to people, like, you know, the person that has failed the most is the person that's the most experienced, you know. So don't be fooled by a rejection or a failure or a loss. That's all just another life experience that you put into your backpack, you know. And the person who has that backpack full of life experiences, good or bad or different, whatever, is a person that's a wise, in my opinion, a very wise person, and person that has learned a lot throughout life. So that's what I'm trying to portray to people, and I hope they enjoy it. Look, I mean, podcasts are huge now at the moment, aren't they? And I just hope that people will tune in and give it a listen once a week, and yeah, that would be great.
They are going to enjoy it, I've no doubt, absolutely. I wonder often when you're having these conversations with people, is it a completely separate thing from your sports career, or is it actually something that lives in tandem and in some way helps your sports career? Because, like, elite boxing is really hard. It's really difficult. When you are in that ring, somebody's trying to concuss you, and preparing for that is not something that any of us really fully understands, like, until you go and sit ringside, and even then you don't really have a clue about what's going through your head in the middle of that. So I often wonder, is this an escape, or is it actually something that you can draw on? Or are they completely separate?
Yeah, I often ask myself the same question. I used to get up to a lot of awful self-destructive behaviour, and I thought I was out of all of that. But, you know, I'm still putting myself back in there, back into the ring, back into that arena. And I'm just, you know, I just have this burning desire to succeed and to win more. I don't feel like I'm done yet. And I was unfortunate there recently, last month actually, just 10 days out from a European title fight. I picked up a really bad rib injury, and I had to postpone the fight. I had to let it go, you know. But I'm hoping, and I'm hoping that the chance will come back around again. My manager said in September I will get back to a big fight. Whether it's going to be the European title fight or whether it's going to be a world ranking title fight, I do not know. But I do know I'm going to be in a big fight again in September. But that has helped me with my guests, because some of my guests come from a sporting background or high achievers, and have been successful in their chosen discipline. So I can identify with them, you know, and particularly the runners as well, like, you know, with like David Gillick there. Like, I was able to identify a lot with him. I can identify with everybody. With Sheahan, I can identify with his recovery. Mary Hulgren is another guest as well. I can identify with her and her, you know, past addictions. and she's in early recovery as well. But like, I feel like I can connect with these people, you know, and connect with them on a level that's a sporting level, but also on a human level, on an emotional level, because we share similar journeys through life.
Is it a connection with the individual sports person that you find maybe easier to strike up?
Not so much easier, but just, I suppose there's a bit more of a correlation there between our two sports, and but no, not so much easier. I tell you, I really enjoy speaking with everybody, you know, with all people, but I just think there's something really special about having a good, honest, open, heart-to-heart chat with somebody. You know, there's something really refreshing about that. And most of, like, I have a lot of close friends in recovery, and I would go to a lot of recovery kind of meetings and groups and things like that. And I would hear a lot of inspiring stories. You know, it's amazing. It's wonderful, the kind of stories, the transformations in people's lives. I think it's fantastic. But not everybody gets it. That's the thing. You know, they reckon like there's only a very, very small percentage of people who actually can turn their life around if they're in if they're living a life of addiction or really struggling or suffering with their mental health or whatever way. And of course, it's not just addiction through drink or drugs and other things like that as well. I spoke to a young lady as well who battled anorexia, and what was really jumped out at me there, really struck me, was how a lot of her mannerisms were very, very similar to a person in addiction with drink and drugs. Like, in her lifetime, she was refusing food, basically. That's what you reject food when you're battling anorexia. You don't want food. And a lot of the tricks, let's say, that you would use to deceive people, like, you know, say, for example, her mother, you know, yeah, I ate that, but she'd be dumping the food. And, you know, little secretive things that, you know, a person in addiction might do as well. You know, the lies, the deceit and all that. And it's very, very, it's amazing how that was so similar. So I was able to connect with her on that level as well. It's very interesting chat. That won't be for a couple of weeks, but yeah, it's just it's a real mixture, Eoin. Yeah.
Are you learning from this as well, Eric?
I am, because like I must say, like, it was very very difficult. I say difficult, but a bit strange, because I didn't really know what kind of role I'm playing here. You know, I'm used to answering questions. I'm used to people asking me questions. Now suddenly I have to ask people questions. So it's a little bit different. And I was thinking, am I the interviewer, or what way is this supposed to be? And then when I tried to move away from the interviewee and just look at just two people having a chat, whether it's over a cup of coffee or whatever. It doesn't matter. I know I'm the one kind of instigating the conversation, so I will be the one kind of asking most of the questions. But I like people to ask me questions too, and I like to give a bit and get a bit, and that's it. You know, and I'm getting comfortable. I'm getting comfortable now. But the learning is massive. The learning, every conversation that I have with every single guest, there's always something you'll take away from each one.
Yeah, well, listen, I wish you the very best of luck with it. I'm fortunate enough to have heard a couple of them. They're brilliant. I couldn't recommend it highly enough. I'm absolutely delighted that it finally is out in public as well. So congratulations, and I'm dying to see you back in the ring whenever that's going to happen as well. So thanks a million. Best of luck with it.
Thank you, Jared. Thanks, Eoin. Take care, guys.
Eric Donovan giving us his thoughts there on the Hooked on Health podcast, which is, I'm delighted to say, available now. It's a Go Loud original series. Episode 1 with Oisin McConville is available now on the Go Loud player, or of course you can get it where you get your podcasts these days. David Gillick, Mary Holgrain, comedian Rory O'Connor, Tony Griffin, Chloe Mustaki of the Republic of Ireland are all going to talk to Eric in the coming weeks. So make sure you hit subscribe and of course rate it wherever you can rate it, and leave a comment as well and share it with your mates. Right, what are we at? 24 minutes past 8. I'm going to give you a quick run through some of the sports pages here. We haven't talked about the... so Roberto Mancini serenaded me when we met at Leicester, right? Damien Delaney, I missed that last night. Dundalk confirmed Vinnie Perth has returned as head coach. Ronan O'Gara and his Lions kicking masterclass with Johnny Wilkinson. Sergio Ramos ends glittering 16-year spell at Real Madrid. PSG is who Graham thinks he's going to go to. and suspected car bomb found ahead of Italy against Switzerland. There were reports of that last night as well. Would you like to see Sergio Ramos PSG, or would you like to see him in the Premier League? Which would you prefer?
Oh, the Premier League.
Who in the Premier League?
Anyone. Yeah, just Manchester United. Throw him in beside Harry Maguire and just let chaos erupt. Do it, Ole. Just sign him, and let's just forget about the fact that you actually stand a hope of catching Manchester City next season, because we all know Manchester City might win the Premier League at a canter again.
Could Man City take him beside Ruben Diaz?
Dude, that would be well. I think Graham just said that Pep wouldn't do it, but yeah,
Pep
sure.
would think about it.
I know more than Graham Hunter about Spanish football. Yeah, Pep Guardiola will definitely sign.
Well, Pep would think about it. Is Pep's ego big enough to think I can make this work?
I can mould this character. He's been waiting in the wilderness for 35 years, and I can actually finally show him the path that his career has always been searching for. Maybe he would. I'm sure that he'd get a little bit of a kick out of that, wouldn't he?
I think he would. Back page of the Herald this morning. Rafa set for Everton job. We haven't talked about this yet at all today. Benitez deal with Toffee's close after another round of positive talks. Good idea or bad idea? Rafa Benitez, the Everton manager.
Good idea. I think it's a good idea. I think he's a top-class manager. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see when he comes back into the Premier League with a better team, how he actually fares, if he's expected to be on the front foot a little bit more. Like with Newcastle, there was definitely a sense that he overachieved a little bit with the bunch of players that he had, and maybe there was then a little bit of a free pass sometimes for a bit of a not a restrictive style of play, but maybe a style of play that wasn't always overly easy on the eye. The Premier League has kind of, it seemed, moved on a little bit, I guess, evidenced by the fact that Sam Allardyce has been relegated for the first time ever. And I'm not for one second comparing Rafa and Big Sam here, but I think that it'll be interesting to see what happens when he gets back to a high-resource club.
So you're saying he's the Spanish Big Sam? Is that what you said? That's the headline?
Yeah, but sure, look, why not? Let's go with that.
Maguire, I'm ready to face Scotland. This is also good news. Harry Maguire has decided that I'm back. I'm going to play against Scotland. By the way, Gareth Southgate, fit and fresh and ready to face.
Yeah,
I feel good. I've been training now for a week. I'm available to the manager for selection. Like I said, I've trained a few times. Obviously, it's a big game. I've done a few sessions now and feel like my fitness is there, so I'm available. So when was the Europa League semi-final?
A long time ago.
Feels a long time ago.
Yeah, I think it's probably an upgrade on Tyrone Mings. I don't think you can make.
Is he with no matches played?
Just about. Do they go back to the three at the back, I wonder, with Harry Maguire available, or do they stick to the tried and trusted? Like, does this? This is I don't know, one way of skewing it, but does this provide an unnecessary headache for Gareth Southgate?
Villa. Sorry, he got injured against Villa. So whenever that game was, that's a long time ago, isn't it?
Time is a flat circle, and I don't know. That could have been last week for all I know, to be honest.
The 9th of May.
9th of May. So that is a bit of time out. In fairness, there's no way you're going to be fully up to match sharpness, but maybe Gareth Southgate will feel that if they're going to win this tournament, they're going to need Harry Maguire fit for the knockout stages.
And so you just
then you have to play him against Scotland and Czech Republic. But it's 2 games in the space of whatever it's going to be, 4 days, enough to get a player match fit for a game against Portugal.
It could be.
Marking Cristiano Ronaldo.
It could be. No?
Maybe it is. And like there's enough, I'm sure, fitness in the bank as well from Maguire, and like he has been a doubt rather than being ruled out, as far as I'm aware, right? So he's probably done a little bit of training here and there, just not full training over the last little while. So
and maybe Scotland's a game that you absolutely have to use him in, and if they win this, they'll be through, and you can play him again in that next game to make sure that he does have that match fitness and there's no actual risk. So, all right. It's 29 minutes past 8. You've convinced me. Harry Maguire straight in the team. OTB AM live every morning in association with Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette, giving you the confidence to tackle the day ahead. The hashtag is best face forward. On the first episode of our new Gillette series, Passing It On, Alan Brogan sits down with his dad, Bernard Brogan Sr. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Alan Brogan, and this is Passing It On with my dad, Bernard Brogan. One thing that I've often been asked about is how I got my start with Dublin, how I started to play with Dublin, and obviously I had the development squads up to under 15 and 16 on into a minor panel and stuff, and most people know the story about how Tommy Lyons moved me from a cornerback to a corner forward one day, and I got a few scores in a friendly against Clare the next day. And from that moment on, I was a corner forward as opposed to a wing back, what he was looking at me originally. But your own story is interesting enough as well, and how you got your call up to the Dublin, the great Dublin team of the 70s. If you want to give us a little run through it.
Yeah, I mean, in that time there were obviously no development squads because that's a fairly new initiative. But I started playing in 1973, and Dublin hadn't been in the Leinster final since 1965. They won on Ireland in 63, won a Leinster in 65, and hadn't been in a Leinster final since then. So in 1973, there wasn't a whole lot of interest to play for Dublin because there was no real momentum around in Dublin. So at the time, I think Kevin Heffernan had managed the team previously. He didn't manage it in 72. Came back in the league in 73, and he started a new thing where he asked the referees to nominate players that they saw playing in club matches around the city. So Plunkett at the time were a junior team, which was very unusual for a fellow from a junior team to get onto the senior panel. But Senan Connell's father was a referee, and he had me down on a list that he sent to the county board. And one Sunday, Kevin Heffernan and Donald Colfer came out to watch me play in Kilbarra Park. And they asked me to join the panel. And I said to them at the time, I'm doing my final engineering degree. I don't have time to play for Dublin. I'm not really interested.
Yeah, so that's actually where the Dublin team was at the time. You actually turned down the initial request to
join the
panel.
Train. And then 6 weeks later, they came and watched me again. And they went back and said, look, we're doing some circuit training in the gym in Finglas, and we'd love you to come out and try it. And like that was new, the whole thing about circuit training. There were no gyms around at the time even.
And how at that stage did they even get word to you? Did they come out and watch you again 6 weeks later? Or was there...
Yeah.
So they
were
after the match
trawling the county for people. In fact, was what it boils down to.
So did they approach you after the match?
After the match, yeah. After the junior match. So I went out then and trained in the gym in Finglas. And I mean, I don't know how many fellas went through the gym, but 50 or 60 or 70 fellas came and went. And, so I stuck it out and started playing then in the winter of 1973. I actually played against the combined universities in a game, against Mark John O'Keefe in centre field, who was playing for the combined university at the time. And in December of 1973, twisted my knee that day, and then went on and played a bit of the league, and then played in the championship started the first game of the championship in 1974 at full forward, and the next day Jimmy Keaveney came back. I was dropped for the next game. Went to the bench, and Jimmy Keaveney came back and he had retired, and Kevin Heffernan asked him to come back, and he came back and played the next game. And I played the following game came on as a sub against Offaly, where I twisted my knee again and had to have a big operation on my knee, so I'd only started playing a couple of months and I had a major operation.
And what changed your mind in the 6 weeks between when the initial approach to 6 weeks later, you changed your mind, you said, okay, I will join the panel?
I think it was just the whole notion of something that was just unusual, circuit training in the gym, and it was... I played basketball for Ireland, schoolboy basketball for Ireland, and did a lot of running and high jumping, and played for the school as well. So it was unusual to do circuit training. So I think it was just the notion of doing something that was new. I said I'd go out and try the circuit training, and then when I got out there, it sort of sucked me in. I
think another thing people find very interesting about us is the whole connection with Kerry, and obviously we're like kind of through Mam being from the Stole, our connection with Kerry is well documented now. But you met Mam in 1975, so that Kerry Dublin kind of rivalry would have been well on its way at that stage. How was the going out with a Kerry girl while this relationship was starting to become, I'm not sure if it was ever nasty, but it was certainly very competitive, and all of a sudden you're going out with somebody from right in the heart of the football area in North Kerry, the Stole.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just interesting when I say that when I was asked to play in 1973, the October of 1973, I sort of said, no, I don't have time. And then I started to play. And obviously we won the All-Ireland in 74. And then I had finished my primary degree in 1974. And I did a master's then so I could stay in Dublin and play football. So that's how big the change was. Now, because we obviously won the All-Ireland because that creates huge momentum. But at the end of 1975, maybe not the end of 1970, maybe it must have been the summer of 75. I left college and I started working for a company called Atlantic Plant Construction. And I did that on the basis that I'd be working in Dublin. But very shortly after I started, they had a job in Tarbert and Kerry, and the engineer that was working down there for the company left. And my boss called me in and told me 6 weeks after I started the permanent job, staying in Dublin, that I had to go to Kerry. So sometime early in the summer of 1975, I went down to Kerry and started work in Tarbert and lived in the stall, where I became very friendly with Jimmy Deanahan. And he and I did a good bit of training together over that summer. But I think later on after the All-Ireland, we were beaten in the All-Ireland in 75, and I actually went back to work on the Monday morning after the All-Ireland. So I'd get in, I wouldn't be delayed going down. So if they wanted to abuse me, that the abuse
Kerry?
Very quick. Yeah.
Kerry won in 75.
Monday of 75. And then in the winter of 75, we went to a carnival in Fenwick, which is a little town outside Listowel. And Jimmy Deanahan introduced me to Maria. So that's how I met.
And was there, when you went down to work in Tarbert, was there a bit of slagging?
Not really, no, because it was sort of Dublin had come out and up. Kerry had won in 75, I remember. So it was sort of, we were big dogs at the time. We were red hot favourites that year, and it was a very young Kerry team. There was obviously some slagging, but it wasn't. As I say, I went down on the Monday morning, so I get it all in quick, so I wouldn't be afraid of being late in the week.
Try to get it all out of the way in the Monday, so it wouldn't drag on for a week.
Yeah.
I know, because you say, I suppose that the bond with Kerry is obviously very strong through, man. You got married in 1979, and you finished your Dublin career in 82 or 83, the year after I was born. And there was probably a few years there where you committed yourself to the club and stuff, and then Jimmy got involved. My uncle, your brother Jimmy, got involved in the management team with Paddy Cullen in 91. He was a selector, and Paddy left in 1991, I think, didn't he? And then Pat O'Neill took over the team. So you were involved. Not a lot of people would know, but you were involved in you had a small role to play in kind of that team as well, and in the All-Ireland win of 1995 as well. We would have been, myself and Bernard and maybe James, Jimmy's son as well, would have been quite close to the act, would have been at some of the training sessions in the dressing room after 1995. But you had a what would be described now as analysis role. You had a part to play in that All-Ireland too.
Well, I mean, when you describe it as analysis, our stuff was, in some ways, was a long way from analysis, because it was basically people's opinion. So Bobby Doyle and I, we were the eye in the sky in the top of the Hogan stand. And prior to 1995, we actually had walkie-talkies. So we used to, let's say, regularly converse with the guys down below. But after the 94 championship, I was saying to Jimmy, I'm not sure that was the best thing to do, because one is we weren't involved in the let's say the team tactics, so we could actually misinterpret stuff up on the stand and make comments and so on that might be a bit misleading. So the following year, Bobby actually went down and became a selector, and I stayed up on the stand. But the following year, I actually went down at half time with notes and so on. I met Jimmy outside the dressing room and said, "Look at here's what I think." So I was involved, through discussion with Jimmy, but not involved in the team per se.
Yeah. That's funny. I remember going down at half time in those matches, and you would be having a chat with Jimmy outside the old Hogan stand dressing room down at the corner of the canal end, Hogan and the canal end. So I suppose that, like, for us growing up, obviously we had that exposure with people talking about you playing, Jimmy being involved in 1995, and in a way, people often ask me and probably ask Bernard the question: did the pressure of say you playing, did that weigh on us at all? And I actually think now when I think about it, it's probably the opposite, because we were maybe exposed to it so much through people talking about you, maybe through little things like that with Jimmy. And I would have went to lots of club matches with Jimmy, Leinster club matches. Aaron Sawyer were winning a lot of Dublin club championships at that stage, remember Kim McCull. So we would have went to a lot of matches with Jimmy where we were obviously going to watch the match, but he was going there in his role as a Dublin selector to see how lads were going, or to see was there any players they should be looking at for the following year. So I think being exposed to that sort of stuff probably helped me in feeling that when I got onto a Dublin panel. Obviously the development squads help as well. When you go on to senior Dublin panel, you're kind of, I suppose you're never used to it, or you're never fully ready for it, but all that exposure probably helped us in dealing with that pressure, and that it felt normal for us to be there, whereas I think some guys can come into county panels and maybe when they're not used to it can be a little bit overwhelmed by it. So I don't think we ever, I think Bernard would agree, we never really felt that pressure on our shoulders, and if anything, it probably helped us that you've been involved because we've been exposed to it. But from your side of things, I know you're probably quite conscious not to put pressure on us, or not to make us feel that burden on our shoulders. Was it something that you thought about much, or that you were conscious of?
I mean, it was great in the sense that she got the opportunity to play, but once you went on the field, like it was out of her hands. So in some ways, it was just, I'd watch the match really, and I'd be watching yourselves play, I'd be more interested in what you were doing than the team, and whether you were making mistakes or not, and why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that. I mean, you know, when you look at the game today, it's all about like 15-man football, and the way your game, like Bernard's game in particular, was very much a poaching game where if I was managing the team, I'd have them playing in the box all the time, but the way the team was playing, they were bringing them out. So it was things like that got to me more than the pressure, because once you went out and you played, like if you remember, you know, like I think it was 2003, you won the under-21 All-Ireland, but you didn't play in an All-Ireland final until 2011. Whereas the year I played, I was involved in an All-Ireland final. The first year I played, I was 21. And it was the first year I played football. I was involved in Ireland. So it was just different. The pressures were different. But you had other successes as well, Leinster finals, and there were big crowds. And, you know, so I know the big crowds didn't matter after the first few years of winning Leinsters and not getting to the All-Ireland. Yeah. I never really felt the pressure, because I didn't get, you know, I never really, just disappointment maybe.
Yeah, and I suppose when you looked, like obviously, you know, you never kind of criticised too much, or if we asked you for an opinion, to give us the opinion. But like I always thought, you were very conscious of not trying not to weigh in too much, especially after losses and stuff like that. But when you watched us play, did you watch us as were you specifically watching more of what we were doing, or would you watch it as part of the team?
No, I watch it more as what you were doing, and in the sense what I thought you should be doing is what you should be doing as part of the team. And I know the whole game today is a 15-man game, and everybody has to slot into what they're doing. Whereas when we played, it was more individual football, you know, in the sense that the fullback got the ball and he kicked it out to the middle of the park, and it was the midfielder's job to get the ball. And if they didn't get the ball, it wasn't the fullback's fault, it was the midfielder's fault. Whereas today, the way the game is played, you know, the fella distributing the ball takes as much responsibility as the fella getting the ball.
Yeah.
So you know, and in that sense, I would have looked at you and I'd be very conscious of it. But I know that the instructions to the team would be different than the way I thought you should have been playing.
Yeah.
I had to keep me counsel to myself, you know.
I know. Sometimes you did, yeah. Which you didn't want to. I suppose just to finish on a bit of positivity, we both have lots of great memories from the 70s, and myself from the noughties and the 3 All-Ireland wins then from 2011 on. And I suppose I'm often asked the question, what are the most memorable moments for me? And it's hard to look past 2011 because we'd waited so long to win that All-Ireland. In the way that it happened, 4 points down with a few minutes left, Kev Mack getting a goal and was winning by a point, just the drama of the whole thing. So it's hard to look past 2011, but But like I suppose for me, it was probably very much about the journey. And I'd always say, like, I really enjoyed playing under Tommy Lyons and Pillar as well, and kind of winning those Leinsters. And there was some huge matches there in Croke Park against Tyrone, even some huge Leinster Championship matches, which I really would have enjoyed. But for yourself, what were the most memorable occasions for you as I suppose, first off as a player, and then after that as a father watching us play?
Well, in a sense, the two as a player was the game in '74 against Offaly. I came off. I didn't come off injured, but it was only 3 subs, and I came on as a sub, and I played very well. I mean, you know, I made a big difference in the game. I twisted my knee, but I couldn't come off, so I went into the corner. I went into the corner forward, and I pretty much came off and had a huge operation after that. So that was a huge day for us because Offaly were All Ireland champions. For us,
that's true.
Huge momentum in the team that day. And
where was that game played?
Played in Croke Park.
Croke Park.
Yeah. And the other occasion then was beating Kerry in the semi-final, where we beat Kerry in the semi-final. I got a goal that day.
Yeah, in 77.
Yeah. They were the two sort of big occasions. I also scored a goal against Offaly in '79, the Leinster final, in the last kick of the game. They were winning by a point, and we won that game. But they were the big games for me, and for you, for memories for me, for yourself was being captain of the 21 team in 2013. Where
2003.
2003, which, like, you know, in a way, looking at that, we would have thought that we would have got to an All Ireland final, you know, long before 2011. So there was great expectation born out of that championship win. And it was a long road after it, you know, nearly 8 years.
That was the first time Dublin had ever won a 21 All Ireland, which is
so it was a big event. And then you got a goal, I think, in the league final or the league match in 2011. Your granddad died on the 1st of April 2011, and we were in Croke Park the following Sunday, and they had a picture of him up on the big screen, and you scored a goal where Paul and Bernard and yourself were involved in the move, and after you scored the goal, you ran out from the goal and put your finger up in the air. Now, I don't know what you were talking to your granddad, but that's what.
I'd say granddad was involved in that goal somewhere as well. I remember it came across. Bernard gave a speculative enough ball across the square, and the keeper actually dropped it straight in front of me. So I just poked it into the net. But yeah, and I suppose that's something like we all talk about the GAA, and everyone has different opinions and stuff. But I remember that week after granddad died, I think yourself or Jimmy rang Croke Park and asked could the family get in to watch that game on the Saturday, and they gave the family a box in Croke Park. I'm not sure who he spoke to, whether it was Peter McKenna or whoever it was, but I think that's something the family will always be grateful for. And like, there's not too many league matches at the start of April that people do remember, but I think we'll all remember that one for a long time.
Yeah. And the other thing then is we have a photograph in the hall with yourself, Paul and Bernard are in the photograph after 2011. The trees are wearing their jerseys in the photograph of Croke Park. That was a big occasion as well.
Yeah, it is, and it's hard to look past the emotion and the relief of winning that All Ireland in 2011. As you said, after winning a 21 in 2003, we thought we'd be winning these finals every year. It took us a long time to get there, and I suppose that was probably the start of the dominance of the current Dublin team. Even though we won 7 or 8 out of the last 10 or whatever it is, so it was the start of a great period for Dublin football, and certainly our best period since that great team in the 70s that you played on.
The team today is an extraordinary team. I mean, they're so. I mean, the game has changed so much. I mean, it's just a different game, and it's so professional, and they'll be hard to beat, you know. And any team that beats them will deserve to beat them.
Yeah, well, look, thanks very much, Dad. We'll leave it at that. And as you say, any team that beats the current team this year will probably go on to win All Ireland and will be deserving champions. But hopefully the Dubs can hold on to it for another year. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, really interesting stuff there. I had no idea about Bernard Brogan Senior being the eye in the sky for that team in the 90s. And also that point that Alan Brogan made there about just being habitually used to being part of the inter-county setup. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, this is like what we've learned over the last little while about, I guess, the very modern Dublin team is just that they went to a whole other level at the end of those 2010s, and Alan Brogan obviously would have seen it from the very start of those sort of chaos years, as it's been dubbed. And I guess the way the inter-county setup was professionalised and almost industrialised over the intervening years since, even after Alan's retirement, has been incredible as well. That's
true.
They've got they've seen all the different levels of Dublin GAA and the GAA as a whole, that family.
OTB AM is live in association with Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette, giving you the confidence to tackle the day ahead. John Duggan, good morning to you. How are you?
Good, Jarno, and yourselves?
I'm good. What's going on?
Well, it's Billy Simo, isn't it, for Italy at the moment in the Euros. 3-0 win over Switzerland last night. I can't see Manuel Locatelli being at Sassuolo for too long. Scored twice last night. The first goal really would make any gamer proud, the way even that overhead shot when he would just accelerated into the box after that amazing 1-2 and scored, and then blitz one in then from the edge of the box. Giro Immobile making it 3-0. They're into the last 16. They play Wales on Sunday. You'd have to think that Wales as well will be in the knockout stage. It's looking like Italy versus Ukraine or Austria, and it's looking like Wales against the Netherlands if things go the way they've been going. So what do we have today? We have the Netherlands in Group C against Austria. Arnautovic is suspended for that game. That kicks off at 8 o'clock in Amsterdam. We have North Macedonia and Ukraine at 2 o'clock in Bucharest. And in another group, the other group, which is the Denmark group, Denmark against Belgium at 5 o'clock in Copenhagen. Hopefully the Denmark players will be okay as they return to the Parken Stadium for that match. Kevin De Bruyne is fit and available for Belgium for that one. Vinnie Perth is back, friend of the show, back at Dundalk as head coach. He got at the Lily Whites to the League of Ireland in 2019. He's going to work with Jim Magilton at Oriel Park, third from bottom at the moment in the league. Rafa Benitez has been linked with Everton. He's held talks, 3 rounds of talks now. So he's waiting for a job offer, but that's not guaranteed. Nuno Espirito Santo nearly had the job last week, and he's not necessarily out of it either. So Rafa, positive talks with Everton, but not guaranteed that he's going to take over at Goodison Park, which he called Everton at one stage. He said it was lost in translation, but he did call them once a small club years ago.
How do you get out of that? What? So you're Rafa's advisor. Before his first press conference, you're telling them they're going to ask you about this. What's your answer?
My answer would be we're here to bring titles to Everton Football Club, and that's the only thing that matters.
John, you've been in this position before. You've supported a football club that had a manager take it over after calling it a small club, and Jose Mourinho was asked about that the first day he took over as Tottenham manager. But then again, Jose says that about every club. Maybe with Rafa, maybe there's a bit more sincerity to what he says.
Well, I was more worried about George Graham moving to Tottenham when he had actually a patio in the Arsenal crest in his garden. That was always something I could never really get over. With Jose, came out in the first week and he said, we're going to win the league title. And that is something I never heard as a Spurs fan before. Unfortunately, it didn't work out the way he said. So it really went downhill from the moment he said, our ambition here is to win the league title, not this season, but the season after. And that really made me feel amazing as a Spurs fan. All that kind of Chelsea-ness had washed away from me when I heard those words. And I thought that Jose Mourinho, winner of 20 titles, would bring that to Spurs.
So all Rafa needs to do is like say something ambitious at the start.
Trophies, titles. If Rafa Benitez, who became a hero on Newcastle, brings a trophy to Everton, brings a silverware to Goodison Park, after 26 years, it'll be 27 years by next year, that'll all be forgotten about. I can guarantee you that. If they're going to Bramley Dock, with all this money coming in, people have got short memories. The one thing I've learned in life, lads, people have short memories. That'll be all forgotten and forgiven.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think he needs a good line, something clever, a bit of a joke, something about facts.
Yeah.
Something, I don't know.
So a small club is the worst. Sorry, go on.
And they were a small club.
Yeah.
But they've got a new billionaire owner who's transforming them, and things have changed.
But it's like it's such an immature sort of thing to say. Like, I'm not sure it was his tongue in his cheek when he was saying it, but small clubs are the sort of thing you see with on Twitter when you see those kind of anonymous accounts with Mason Greenwood as their profile picture saying small club in response to Arsenal FC's tweet, and then somebody else replies saying get ratioed, mate, or something like that. That's the realm of the small club insult. So, I mean, are Everton fans actually going to be that annoyed about this?
I think what he should do is he should go on that first press conference with an Everton scarf around his neck and go, I got stuck in the toffee of what I said.
Hey.
And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you the facts of the matter here. The facts are I'm going to bring trophies. I'm going to bring the glory days, Howard Kendall's days back to Everton Football Club. And we're going to be the top dogs in Merseyside now.
That makes sense. Is he gonna burn Seamus Coleman out? Is that one of our concerns here?
Well, Seamus is what, 32, 33 years of age now. There's always a concern. Was there a time there when he was not flavour of the month under Marcus Silva? And Ancelotti loved him. I think Seamus Coleman, however many times he plays, is integral to the Everton fabric as a leader. And you'd hope that if it is Rafa or Nuno, whoever it is, that they understand and identify that.
I would like Seamus Coleman to go to Real Madrid. That's what I would like. If Carlo Ancelotti, come on, you talk the big talk, Carlo. Bring me to Madrid for a couple of seasons.
Bale as well.
Yeah.
Bale's back in favour, back in vogue now.
Playing well.
Yeah. It didn't work out at Spurs either, did it? So, yeah, we got the two lads involved in the US Open, Rory and Shane. So, Irish time, TE times, 3:29 Shane with Henrik Stenson and Francesco Molinari, the last three winners of the Open, actually. And then Rory McIlroy at 9:36 Irish time at Torrey Pines South in San Diego with the world number one Dustin Johnson and Justin Rose. So McIlroy, no majors in 7 years, the 2011 US Open champion, but he feels he is not too far away.
You know, I won a tournament 4 or 5 weeks ago, so it's there. And I probably, walking off Muirfield Village on, a couple of Sundays ago, said to Harry, I felt like I played better at Memorial than I did at Quail Hollow. I finished 18th at Memorial and I won Quail Hollow. It's just it's golf at the end of the day, and sometimes it's unpredictable, but I'm feeling good about where my game is. So again, as I said at the very start, it's about going out there and playing as free as I can and having that mentality that I had as a 22-year-old and just trying to get into that mindset.
I listened to that press conference. I thought to myself, Rory's going to win this now. Mm-hmm. And then like Homer Simpson in that meme where his head starts getting bigger and bigger like a balloon and then it just bursts. I said, I've got to snap out of this because I've been here before, probably most of the last 7 years.
Rory wants to feel 22 again. I think we all do.
Yeah, 22
except maybe
good.
Eoin.
No, bad times. Never go back to 22, Rory. Just giving you advice. It's the same. You could play the press conference audio from the Masters, from the USPGA, from last year's Masters, from all the previous majors, John, and they'd all sound roughly the same. Feel good in my game.
He said some odd things. He said he struggled in the left to right winds at Kiawah Island, and he would have won the tournament if he hadn't played the par 5 so badly, which I found strange because he won the PGA Kiawah by 8 shots in 2012. He came across very positively. He's got a great record of the course. I think the swing change with Pete Cowan, there's nobody better to work with him at the moment. Bob Rotella, I think, is trying to make him feel like a kid again and have that freewheeling style. He has started major tournaments badly. It's a wait and see. It's a watch and see. You can't go in there with any kind of confidence about Rory because I don't know what's going to happen with Rory. He might win, he might lose, he might be nowhere, he might miss the cut, he might win by 6 shots. I don't know what's going to happen. Interestingly with Shane Lowry, I love this line at the very end of Shane Lowry's press conference. Tournaments are one of the greens. Give me a really good putting week and I'll be hopefully thereabouts. Just simplified what he needs to do this week.
Yeah, very straightforward. That's it. And they're good times for us watching them this evening. It's not a great tournament in terms of staying up late on Sunday night / Monday morning. Anything else going on, John?
Royal Ascot Stradivarius looking for 4 in a row in the Gold Cup today. 4:15. Great win for Love for Aidan O'Brien yesterday, but it's all about the Euros and the lads over in California.
All right, good stuff, JD. Thanks very much for that. You can read John Duggan's preview, Virtual Insanity, and his tips for the US Open on otbsports.com and on the OTB Sports app. And now I want to tell you about this. Di Boland, one of our colleagues here at OTB, is doing a 24-hour cycle in aid of the Irish Cancer Society. It takes place this Saturday. Anybody that would like to donate, they can do so by Googling Dahi Boland 24-hour cycle Just Giving, or go to Dahi's Twitter page @dots_B, where the link to his Just Giving page is in his bio, and we wish him the very best of luck. The mad thing, 24-hour cycle. How's your 100 kilometres in a month for the Ring of Kerry for charity? I know you hate charity, Eoin. I know it's like a real imposition in your life to think of anybody other than yourself, given that that's just the generation that you're from. How's your 100 kilometre cycle going?
You've got almost going to be able to do a 24-minute cycle.
Very good. Well, that would be a start, you know. It's with little baby steps, little baby rotations that you get there.
Correct, and the stabilisers then after that might actually come off.
Right, at 8:59, let me tell you what's coming up on OTB Sports Radio today. At 11 o'clock every morning during the Euros, it is the Euro 2020 show with Sheahan. At 1 o'clock today, OTB Gold is Mick O'Connell at 80. Our History of Sport lecture series from Paul Rouse at 3 o'clock. Our retro panel at 4 is Losing the Dressing Room. At 6, it's OTB Gold, the Chris Heron interview. Chris Heron played basketball for the Boston Celtics and was also addicted to opiates at the same time. A remarkable story of recovery as well. OTB tonight with John Giles, Phil Healy and Lee Chin. Brilliant lineup with Nathan from 7. And then we're going to hear from Ron Lagarde a little bit later on this hour. We're going to talk the US Open with Joe Molloy, but we're back after these with some Gaelic football.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Don't know what to get your golf mad dad for Father's Day? Well, you do now. A subscription to Golf Weekly, the best golf podcast on the planet. Packed full of interviews with top golfers.
Shane Lowry, how you keeping? I'm good, thanks.
Watch parties with Golf Weekly guests.
This is our first ever major watch-along party.
And tips on how to improve your dad's game. For the perfect gift this Father's Day, and just $3.99 a month, go to otbsports.com/golfweekly.
Why not check out the Boyle Sports betting app for the latest betting and stats on every player and team with the Boyle Sports Euro Stats Centre. Rated 4.5 stars on the App Store, you'll find all our latest odds and offers for the Euros. So remind us where to go, Stevie G.
Boyle Sports. This is betting.
18 plus, bet responsibly, gamblingcare.ie.
First up, a Go Loud original from News Talk.
Get all the news you need to start your day with First Up, the podcast that brings you stories, analysis and interviews with the top newsmakers. First Up, available each weekday morning from 7 a.m. on Go Loud.
Subscribe to this podcast for free on the Go Loud app.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
Okay, so the latest episode of the Paddy and Andy podcast is available to download right now in the OTB Sports app, and of course you'll get it wherever you get your podcasts as well. In a couple of minutes' time, we'll talk with Tommy about that, and we're going to talk golf with Joe Molloy in just a minute. How much of your watching hours this weekend, Eoin, will be dedicated to golf, given that there are some competing things out there?
Yeah, tonight and I guess late tomorrow, late Saturday really are the three windows. Sunday probably those pesky West Coast majors. Although actually the last West Coast major when Colin Maricka won the USPGA, I watched the entire thing till the finish, which was ridiculously stupid. So I won't be doing that again. I will be doing something other than sleepwalking in the studio on Monday morning, hopefully.
Ideally, that would be perfect. Yeah. So Maricka kept you up late, and then you were a husk of a human being afterwards.
Yeah, but that was in the working from home age when you.
So we didn't notice.
You didn't notice, yeah. I just put a filter on my Skype, and that was it. Like, I mean, I was a literal.
You
orange.
had the Homer Simpson eyeball glasses on.
I had the Homer Simpson eyeball glasses on, and people were like, "Wow, God, that is as good as he has ever looked on the show." So actually, it was a win-win-win. Yeah,
and your performance was about a standard late keep 4 out of 10.
Yeah, late keep 4 out of 10 is as good as I can ever hope for in my life.
All right, some more papers for you very quickly here. Major Rethink says the Daily Mail. That's Rory McIlroy looks to take the shackles off at the US Open. We need a horn that sounds every time there's a cliche about this kind of stuff. It's like, oh, finally freed of the shackles of
what exactly?
Playing golf. Rory McIlroy is going to be excellent here. Mayo fear O'Connor will miss championship. I think at this stage, that's that.
The one thing that's going to happen is that, like, when Rory wins his next major, we'll then look back at like the Thursday comps and be like, he took the shackles off.
Yeah,
he took the shackles off in a different way this time.
Ramsey's sweet. No eye roll, no hat, no flicker of recognition from you, Eoin.
You've got me those pesky cultural references from the 1970s. Come on, explain to me, what is a Ramsey sweet?
You don't know anything?
I've never had a Ramsey sweet. Here we go again.
It's not.
Come on, mansplain.
It's rhyming slang. Ramsey Sweet, Ramsey Street.
I see what they did there.
What's Ramsey Street?
Ramsey Street's one of the streets in what television show is it?
I'm not telling you. See the little tiny hamster turn town now with your insulting nonsense. Come on. Yeah, come on.
Come on, you can explain it to us. Ramsey Street, like, I mean, I was going to say Coronation Street, but Coronation Street is Coronation Street.
Hey, there you go. That's one. Yeah, so that's gone. What else could it be?
It could possibly be Emmerdale. It could possibly be Coronation Street. Or EastEnders, rather.
No.
Oh, sorry, it's Neighbours or Home and Away.
Which is it?
Neighbours.
Hey, fourth time lucky there. Good man, yeah. Oh, I know everything. Look at me. I can tell you the difference between Kanye's Yeezy period and any of the other stuff that's happened in Kanye's life, but...
I really can't, but I do know that Neighbours is a top-quality television show that airs at like 5:30 every weekday afternoon. 9:05 this morning here on OTB AM. Feel free to mansplain anything you want to Eoin in the comments, or indeed at his Twitter handle. It's US Open Week at Torrey Pines in California, and as with all the golf majors, Golf Weekly is in overdrive. Over on the Patreon, they have recorded 40 minutes with former Ryder Cup captain Paul McGinley, an hour preview pod on top of that, and they'll have their third major watch-along party of the year on Sunday evening. John Rahm, clear favourite for the tournament, despite its disappointment 2 weeks ago at the Memorial when he was told he tested positive for COVID on the 18th green. And Paul McGinley says he is clear favourite for a reason.
Yeah, I don't know what he's been doing the last 5 or 6 days, and they've been very secretive about what he did, whether he had to stay in a hotel room in Ohio, or if he could get his private jet back to Arizona and hook up again go back to his family environment, or what he had to do. They've been quite secretive about what he's done. So that's been important, because maybe he has been allowed practice over the last 4 or 5 days, but being stuck in the worst case scenario was he was stuck in a hotel room in Ohio and wasn't allowed out for 6 or 7, 8 days, whatever it was. Now that could have a big effect on how his performance would be this week, but I'm not sure if that was the case. He might have been able to go back to Arizona, and he might have been able to continue with his preparation. But all the indications are that Rahm is the guy to beat. You'd have to say, as I say, golf course form coming back, putting coming back, golf course that he loves, and hasn't won a major championship yet. It has to be a matter of time before he starts racking those up, because this guy, my personal view, he's the best player in the game at the moment.
Right.
And yeah, that'd be my personal view. I do think I watched him a lot. I've been around him. We won the Irish Open down in Lahinch. I watched him a lot and spent a lot of time with him around there. I've been watching him a lot on tour, and just the way he hits the golf ball. And I look at the strength from driver through putter in his game. It's phenomenal. And he's got an incredible deep passion about the game, incredibly driven. For me, I think at this moment in time, he is the best player in the game, but he's got to prove it by winning major championships, and it's time to step up to that level, John.
Yeah. All right. Joe Molloy, good morning to you.
Hi, gents. How you doing?
That's pretty high praise. Best golfer in the game at the moment. Competition is pretty stark at the top.
Yeah, he is phenomenal. I mean, he's been earmarked for a while, to be fair. He can kind of do everything, Ger, and he can win on every kind of golf course. Some players, there's horses for courses, whereas Rahm wins on links, as we know. Paul mentioned Lahinch there. He can win on parkland courses where you have to just turn off your brain and bomb it. He can win on strategic courses. There's no real weakness to his game. He changed his equipment at the start of this year, and his short game went to pot, couldn't really hold a putt. His chipping wasn't very good. That often happens, they say, especially when you change ball. But at his most recent event, he seemed to be back and clicking again. So you have to assume someone that good, it's more than a flash in the pan. So the fact that it's at Torrey Pines, where I don't think he's finished outside of the top 5. He won it in 2017, loves the place. All of those ingredients just sort of add up into very hard to back against him. Even though, by the way, it was so cynical the way they told him he had COVID. Did you see that a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, he seems to have taken it quite well.
Yeah.
Why do you say cynical? What did you think was cynical about it?
Well, it was on the Saturday where he had shot a 64, and I think Shane Lowry came off the course saying, if he shot a 64 out there, that's the best round of golf I've ever been connected to, because there's not a 64 out there. It was phenomenal. But they told him as he's walking off the 18th green. Like, all the cameras there, I just think it was to get eyeballs. I think they were hoping the video would go viral. It wasn't a case of, John, can we have a word with you in the scoring tender in privacy? It was, John, you've got COVID. Here's your medical information, the world to see it. I mean, you think of Irish rugby players, they reserve the right sometimes to even acknowledge publicly they have COVID, which is fair enough. I don't really have an issue with that. Not everyone wants to broadcast to the world they have COVID. John Rahm may have wanted to tell the world he had a back strain, but I mean, 18th green, they have like Rahm collapsing when he gets the news, The only reason they were doing it was because they wanted that moment of John Rahm going, oh no, and collapsing and all that kind of stuff. So It just shows, like, even boring golf kind of still wants those eyeballs and that viral moment. So I don't know if you were at work and they decided to tell you you'd had a positive
Burst in the door now.
In front of the whole office or something. Jar, you're positive. So I just thought it was a bizarre way to tell someone they had what still is kind of serious condition in certain instances. But after initially collapsing, he took it well and understood the situation. So look, he's top, and look, not everyone who wins a major does win a major, who should win a major, but you really have to think with Ram. A lot of ducks in a row this week.
Does that put him at the top of that list now when it comes to publicity and promotion, that he's going to be the money winner of this brand new league, John Ram?
The Player Impact Programme?
Correct.
No, I don't think so.
Right.
He might do well to be... I think it's only 10 players who get some of that pot. I heard you talking to Nathan about it yesterday. This programme, for anyone missed it, the PGA have launched this year, about 40 million split up, and it's measured on various metrics from Google searches to Twitter likes to retweets, you name it, it's all there. And so, Tiger would ordinarily win it any year. Brooks and Bryson doing their best right now. Rory will be there. I don't know if Ram will be in the top 10, funny enough. Would you be that interested in John Ram?
Well, just after they made a show of him, giving him his COVID test, I was like, at least he gets high on the PIP.
It's true. He might make a measly couple of million for his trouble, yeah.
He needs to win this week and next week to fully get the benefit of that. I'm just thinking here, though, that's the easiest thing in the world to cheat. Like, hire a click farm and, just have any old crap spewed out about you, a few Russian bots, a click farm somewhere in Asia, and away you go. No?
Yeah, no, I guess.
Maybe we could set up a sideline here. We could take a cut.
I know the Bryson Brooks thing, which people are kind of sick of talking about. I think myself included increasingly. I know there is a sense that they're now monetizing this, and there's no doubt. Initially, this was very real, and this went back to 2019. They've been at each other. Initially, it started over slow play. That's kind of the genesis of this whole thing. That Bryson takes forever talking about all sorts of scientific things over his shot, and Brooks. This is just the antithesis of everything Brooks wants to see in golf. Brooks, Jock, just hit the damn ball. That's Brooks's attitude. But there is no doubt that they have both, or people around them, realize they can monetize this a bit. I guess it's human nature. They can't but be aware that every time this flares up now, they get the most likes of anything they ever put out in social media. That the world is kind of hungry for this. So they're definitely monetizing what was originally, I think, a genuine beef. I don't think the rest of the players are that bothered by it genuinely. I think... Nathan was even giving that example of Troy Merritt yesterday, winning £1 million for some silly made-up season-long event, and he didn't even realise he was in it. There's all of these little incentives all over the place. 40 million spread across 10 players. I think a lot of them are whatever.
I think it's interesting, though, because if you go back to when Anna Kournikova broke into and crossed over into mainstream fame,
yeah,
a lot of people were like, "Oh, she's going to be richer from not playing tennis than playing tennis," and that's a key moment in athletes understanding that they don't have to be successful to be rich. That there's another way to do it. And I just wonder if golf is in a bit of a tricky spot where the tournaments become less important than some of the other stuff, and you need the other stuff to get the casual viewers to make sure that your TV deals are so big that you can afford to have these made-up £1 million competitions. But at the same time, you really need the singular aim of the best players has to always be to win these tournaments.
Yeah.
And maybe that doesn't change. I don't know. But it's just an interesting tension point coming.
Yeah, sure. I genuinely think the tournaments and winning the majors and places in history for all the top guys, and even for the next cohort who just want to win a major, I still think that trumps everything. And they're already making so much more money off the course than they are on the course. Certainly the very top guys. McIlroy signed, a $200 million deal with Nike a couple of years ago. Woods is a billionaire. That's not from his on-course earnings. So there's so much money, corporate money, sloshing around the game already, and there has been for a long time. You read Rich Beam's book from, I don't know what that is now, maybe 15, 20 years ago, and just all the corporate money sloshing around. It's been there for a long time. Funny, this Player Impact Programme, I don't think if Bryson and Brooks were doing their thing, it would even be mentioned. It's not, I mean, for you and I, it would be life-changing, but really it's not that much money in their world. I mean, a trip for Dustin Johnson to Saudi Arabia once a year probably does net him something similar to what he might hope to make out of this player impact program. It is only like 40 million quid spread across 10 players. So I think, you know, you're like, oh, well, a few million, I'll take it. But I don't know if, like, it's weird with Koepka. Oh, he's building his brand. What's his brand? Like, being a bully? You know, it's a weird one.
Well, his brand started out with those long-form interviews where he's like, I'm not really that into golf, I don't really like it. That was kind of the first time. But that seemed a little kind of, people don't pay enough attention to me, even though I'm the best player at the moment. There was definitely a bang of like, why am I not getting any attention here? And he's getting it now.
Yeah. And just to know if it's the right kind of attention. That was definitely his big chip on his shoulder, for sure. And he remembers things like turning up to defend his US Open title. He's won 2 of them. And, you know, there's billboards everywhere. And I think the billboard was, you know, the usual suspects, Rory and Mickelson or whatever. And there was no real Koepka billboard, even though he was the defending champion. Or the Fox TV ads in the build-up to the US Open had all the usual suspects, but in the ads didn't have Koepka. All of these things land with him and stick in his craw. And so he really felt marginalised for a long time. But then it's weird because you see him interviewed all the time now, and it's like he has such disdain for the whole process and a sense of, why do I have to be interviewed? He's a kind of, look, I do like him. I don't like the way he's behaving at the moment, especially. But he is something different in golf, which is full of, quote unquote, great guys, you know?
His brand, I would say, Joe, is the frat guy, young frat boy in the United States who likes to play beer pong and has a Barstool Sports flag hanging up in their college dorm and admires this guy because he thinks that science is stupid. And Bryson is a nerd, and those guys would have like shoved a guy like Bryson into a locker at school or flushed his head down the toilet, whereas Brooks is a jock, and Brooks is one of us, and that is the target market for golf fans in the United States of America, whether golf likes it or not.
Yeah, that could be very true. God, that's a depressing thought.
He's going to get rich off the back of that target market because there's a lot of those people around.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested to see where it all goes. I presume it will cool down a touch because I think everybody sort of agreed that the escalation of bringing the fans, inviting the fans to say stuff to Bryson DeChambeau during competition is crossing a line. So, like Paul McGinley was saying on Golf Weekly, he's had conversations with Keith Pelly, the European Tour CEO, about this. You know, Paul McGinley's obviously on the European Tour board as well, that this is something they have to kind of stop at source if anything like this kind of kicks off. It'll be interesting this week to see if there's any repercussions if fans start saying stuff to DeChambeau. I don't think the West Coast crowd are generally as raucous as East Coast, but, you know, few beers, gets into evening time. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a great tournament. I'm really looking forward to it. There's something where I think all the ingredients adding up for Ram means I write off Ram. No one ever wins when they're that much of a favourite. So a lot of players are coming into form at the moment. So I think this Brooks DeChambeau thing it's such a like talking point now. And I think today's Thursday, by Friday, thankfully, one of them will be out of the tournament and it'll just kind of drift away. Because I noticed on Golf Weekly the last week or two, our subscribers are getting in touch saying, can you stop talking about this? It's so boring. You know?
Yeah, look, it's true. But at the same time, it's kind of grimly fascinating to see exactly what happens.
Sure, yeah. No, it is.
The sporting gods tend to throw them together on day 3 or maybe day 4 where it doesn't really matter, and all of a sudden we're interested to see what happens, like with the 3rd or 4th pairing out in the final day, and it's like completely irrelevant in those terms. We've got this far on a major preview without mentioning Rory, which is, I would say, unique. Certainly in my experience, since Rory McIlroy has become somebody who contends in majors. Is that a good thing in a weird way? Is that maybe the opposite of everything we've done for the last while, that we can talk ourselves into this, he's under the radar?
Yeah, I mean, we've tried everything, haven't we? So now it's like, the expectation's really low, therefore he's actually going to win. So we can hit the expectation button right before he starts. John Duggan was on with you there beforehand and said he's not sure what to expect. I think that's probably the consensus. I mean, so you have Ram ahead of him in the betting, and for all those reasons, he's a significant favourite. Dustin Johnson is next in the betting at 14-1. He's coming back into form. DeChambeau is at 14-1. These Poana greens, he doesn't love them. They have different types of grass growing together, so the grass grows at different speeds. The net result being they get very bumpy, these greens. These greens on the West Coast can get inside your head. Some players hate them. So DeChambeau doesn't love them. They're an acquired taste, although he said, I'm doing what I did at Wingfoot. I'm bombing it and I'm gouging out of the rough. That's my strategy. Worked last time, so who's going to write him off at 14-1? There's then a bunch, and Rory's one of these on kind of 16s. So Xander, local boy, he was thereabouts in the Masters, you remember. Gave it up against Matsuyama. There's Morikawa, who won his first major last year and has now established himself in the top 10. There's Koepka also at 16-1, and there's Spieth at 16-1, and there's Rory at 16-1. So it's got it's a good tournament because a lot of these guys there's a case for a lot of them now, and including McIlroy because he won a couple of weeks ago. Basically, he won a couple of weeks ago. He turned up at Kiowa and had a terrible first round, and he's had terrible first rounds at majors for far too long now. He himself in his press conference yesterday even admitted, yeah, look, he didn't use the pressure word, but he did say, there's no doubt it's a bit easier to freewheel it after I bomb myself out of the tournament, basically, in the first 3 rounds. I need to bring the freedom I have on the driving range to majors. So that's been McIlroy's issue of late. First rounds, he's out of the tournament. He's still working with Pete Cowan. He's working on a fade with the driver, which is kind of new. You would hope they're improving the wedges. He's working with Bob Rotella in a big way now, and mentioned him after winning at Quail Hollow a few weeks back. So you're hoping mentally he's feeling better. I mean, Jer, we've watched him over a decade, and he'll say different things coming into majors. So the word this week, and I have heard him say this at various junctures before, is I'm going to freewheel it. You know, I'm not going to worry too much about the net result. I'm just going to hit it and not worry about it. And the reality is, as we know, in anything that you care about, you can tell yourself, I don't mind, I'm just gonna freewheel it. But your brain knows that you care massively, and therefore the tension is still there. So that's just something that he's grappling with at the moment.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting whatever happens. Joe, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
Okay, fellas, see ya. Bye-bye.
Joe Molloy there. You can hear more of that good stuff on the Golf Weekly pod, which is now exclusively on Patreon, patreon.com/Golf Weekly, or otbsports.com/Golf Weekly will take you to the Patreon page as well. It is 22 minutes past 9 this morning here on OTB AM. This week, Paddy Andrews and Andy Moran look back on the winners and losers from the league. They react in real time to the news of Cillian O'Connor's Achilles injury, and they also talk about decision making on the football field and how you can improve it. Have a look.
We've all been in the situation. I was in the situation in 2016, couldn't get into the squad, couldn't get into the team, began to play really well for the club, and we were playing Fermanagh, and I come on against Fermanagh, I win 2 or 3 balls, but I forced the shot because I was so keen to get back into the team. And I remember Tony McEntee grabbing me at training, face to face, we're rowing. I'm saying, listen, I'm playing well enough. Joe, I know I'm 33.
You grabbed me a few times. He was my club manager as well.
Yeah. You know the crack. So we're face to face. We're going at each other. And McEntee just goes, all we need you to do is win the ball up high. He said, that's all we need you to do. So I go into the Kildare game the week after. And I have it in my head, I don't even need to shoot. I win the ball, lay it off, win the ball, play. All of a sudden, we're playing nice football. I'm really important to the team, and I'm back in the squad. And I took the pressure of having to be in that person to score the point, to force my way into the team. Once that was gone, all of a sudden I was in the team, and I was in the team for about 3 or 4 years in a row then. So it's an education, but it's also making sure that they're not the only person that needs to do this. If you have a Matthew Tierney now beside him, who he really didn't have last year, you have a Paul Cook who can score in the middle of the field. Yeah, obviously still have Paul Conroy. And if you have Comer back, a young Kelly, a wing forward, all of a sudden Brannigan got a point last day. All of a sudden you have 5 or 6 guys there that can score. And Shane, we're going to be judging you as on how much assists and score involvements you have, as much time you put the ball over the bar.
But you're talking to me, how do you learn and how do you get better players? And this is not just a Galway thing, you're talking about club players anyway. It's that communication around it that I come back to. Coaches and managers get so caught up in a team setup. This is our style of play. We're gonna play this defensive style, or we're gonna play this attacking style. The role of a coach is to make the players at his disposal better. So that's the conversation between the coach and player X, and say, look, you're making this mistake consistently. Why do you think that is? And like Andy's saying, for forwards, and it's forcing it. Like I used to trying to get into the team, or if Jim had to drop me and I'm trying to get back in, you start taking bad shots and you're going, why did I do it? That's just not on. Because you're trying to force things. And that's an example of Sheahan at the weekend, because he feels he's the leader and he's the man that's going to kick the scores. But that's what we did with Dublin. Conversations. Like I said, the training sessions on Tuesday and Thursday and Saturday are hugely important. They're the tangible, we're out on the pitch, but the conversations on Wednesday and Friday and the reviews of games, you'd sit there for an hour talking with 3 or 4 of your teammates, even over lunch, and you're going, geez, we did this, and well, you shouldn't have done that, and here's why, and then getting opinions from your teammates. That is conversation and learning, and you're talking about...
Yeah, that is the lads from the Paddy and Andy podcast, the Football Pod with Paddy and Andy, available for download now or streaming wherever you get it. Better to hit the automatic download on the OTB Sports app, and then when you wake up, it's already ready to go, and you don't even have to go to the hassle of it, and we'll even ping you a notification when it's ready. Tommy, good morning to you.
Morning, guys. How are we?
Just soaking in the football knowledge there. Is that you never feeling the need to shoot again? All we need is for you to win the ball high up the pitch. If Andy McEntee's listening, that's all he needs in the team at the moment, and they might even be good enough to beat Kildare once this year.
Well, if Andy McEntee's been watching Meath Hill over the last couple of years, he'd know that that's exactly how I play. I'm the target man in the full forward line, and that's all I do. So I'm ready and waiting.
What about, so what, did Colin Collins pick up the phone to you yet, or have you addressed your dual allegiance yet?
Not yet. No, we haven't broached that yet. So I'm waiting to see how the winter goes in the club championship, and we'll see what happens.
It's good, keep the options open. Like, this is...
what you got to do, Owen?
Did you transfer clubs? Are you thinking about transferring clubs?
No. Gee, you couldn't do that.
Would you ever do that? Just for a season or two?
It depends. Sure, depends
there you go. I'd never do that. Well, maybe I would. Twisted your arm there. It was a bit rubber.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm not going to be drawing on any... No, I'm only joking. I'd never leave Meath Hill. You couldn't do that. You couldn't leave your club.
Are we going to have...
the way the GA works.
We're going to have this out here then. Ger obviously gloating away on the power rankings the other day. Tell me about Meath getting smashed by Kildare. And you weren't even here to defend yourself.
Yeah. How did that game go for you? How did that all work out for you, Tommy?
Yeah, Jerry, you were very quiet since half-time last November in the Leinster semi-final. So, look, I'll let you have it. I'll let you have it. You deserve it. Me just didn't show up, and I bit my lip on the Football Pod of Paddy and Andy. I didn't open my mouth about Meath until an hour and 20 minutes into the podcast, and then I let rip.
And it's a 2-hour, 20-minute podcast.
Yeah, so it's... I don't know if it's worth hanging around for. Actually, the big thing...
You can see the lads walking off in screen as well. Tommy still's going, and it's another 40 minutes of it.
Actually, there was a bit off air, but that didn't make the cut, thankfully. I managed to edit that out. But the big thing from that was we got a question in asking, how could Meath be possibly so flat? Like, let's call it a spade. It's pretty much their biggest game of the season. You look at what Derry and Offaly are doing this weekend, and fair play to them. They're playing their league final, because Derry have a tough game in Ulster. They have a lot of momentum this year. Who knows how far they'll go in Ulster? But realistically, they have a massive chance to win silverware at the weekend. And Offaly, likewise, bit of momentum under John Mahon. They're not going to win. Like, Leinster doesn't exist. Dublin wins Leinster like every year. Doesn't matter. That provincial championship doesn't exist. So in a knockout year, the league was so important. And for Meath, who I have been talking on the show about the progression that they've made, and they have made progression over the last couple of years, to get to Division 1, that was imperative this year. And they just didn't show up on the day.
It's all that matters for any Leinster county is progression through the league that isn't Dublin. And then it's particularly back-to-back seasons where there is no backdoor, the only thing that matters is the league, because at the end of this shit show with COVID, you are going to have something to build on. And if you're not playing the highest level football that your county can play, then you're at nothing.
100%. And like, you can look at Cavan and Tipperary, and they've slid as far down Owen's power rankings as they have done in the National Football League. Like, they're going to find it very, 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 very tough to bounce back to playing Division 1 football standard again. And they'll find it very tough to win another provincial championship while things are the way they are, the structures are set the way they are. It was just... Like, the thing that we get into in the podcast is I don't know if you saw the stat during the week, but Conan Doherty did a thing on Dublin's 3 most important players, Kieran Kilkenny, Brian Fenton and Conor O'Callaghan. They've missed 4 minutes of football for Dublin. 4 minutes of championship football for Dublin over the last couple of years. And when I was in Castlebar at the Meath Mayo game a couple of weeks ago for Off the Ball, Andy Moran was there with me, and before the game, Andy was saying, I reckon Horn will make 7 or 8 changes here, wait and see. McEntee made 7 or 8 changes. And I can understand why he did it. He's probably given his panel a chance to perform. He's probably trying to find one or two players. But I was really disappointed not to see Jordan Morris go up against Oisín Mullen, because Jordan Morris has only faced one Division 1 defender, and that's Mick Fitzsimons last year. So in that game, there's a moment, and I talk about it in the podcast, where one of the Meath players gives a hospital pass, as it's called. And it's on the sideline. It's a poor pass to one of his teammates. And there's two Meath lads going for it. And Oisín Mullen annihilates them. He goes through the two of them. It's like something you'd see in an underage match when there's a bigger kid and there's two smaller kids going for it. And he just drives up the pitch with the ball. The two Meath lads are lying on the ground. The play goes on. They're both grand to get up and to play on. But they're seeing there, and it's what the lads are talking about, the strength and the pace and the differences there in Division 1. So the lads then can go off. Any team that's playing, so like Clare are going to get it this year. They're going to go in and they're going to face Donegal, Tyrone, Kerry, David Clifford. They're going to play Dublin, and they're going to say, right, I am not where I need to be. I need to put a couple more months in here in the gym, or we need to progress this part of our game, or do this or that. In Division 2, I'm not sure that you're seeing that week in, week out. It's the same at club level. I often say it, and it's mentioned on this show before, but we won a junior championship in 2017 for the first time in a long
never
time.
heard about that.
But Jared, there's no way we would have won that junior championship playing Division 4 football in Meath.
No,
genuinely, in club level,
I know, there are better, more universal examples. Mayo, for example, would not have had the period of dominance they had in Connacht if they weren't always perpetually the only Division 1 team who were guaranteed to be a Division 1 team throughout that period of time. Monaghan would not have won their Ulster titles if they weren't a Division 1 team the way that they were established as a Division 1 team under Malachy O'Rourke. I think that they...
100%.
And like, I really just feel like since McGeeney left Kildare, that their absence from Division 1 as a perennial team in Division 1 was a huge mistake. Like, and it was just you can't build from it. And it's the same, it's Cork. Like, Cork flukily beat Kerry last year because Kerry get in their own heads, and if that game had been a draw, did they have played penalties? It probably was penalties in the night, was it? But if it had gone, if it was ever going to a replay, Kerry were going to beat them again because they weren't going to make the same mistake twice. So that was just a complete fluke. And there's no way that you would give Cork a chance in the Munster Championship over the next couple of years while they're languishing the way they are languishing. Now maybe next year they get up to Division 1, we'll see.
Possibly, I like for Kildare, it's great, it's fantastic, and there's a lot of young footballers coming through in Kildare, and they're trying to build something, so we'll see what happens with them. I would just say it's a pity that, having watched them last week, that Clare didn't get to face Meath in that semi-final, because, you know, if Clare had beaten Meath and they got up to Division 1, what an achievement that would have been for Colin Collins and his side. They were actually quite unlucky against Mayo. They just left themselves with too much to do at the weekend. I was in Ennis. David Tuberty scored one of the nicest points that I've seen live in the flesh for the last couple of months. Like, it was just such a good score, and they had such good footballers, a couple of good real throwback footballers, two lads in the middle of the field, Carl O'Connor and Darren O'Neill, that would be more, they probably would have survived better 20 years ago playing football, so it would have been interesting to see them go up against the likes of Brian Fenton next year in the league. So they were unlucky, but the clip that we played just beforehand, I don't know how late it's gone here, I haven't got the time in front of me.
9:33.
The clip that we played just beforehand, it came off the back of Shane Walsh, the conversation around Shane Walsh. And Ger, I know you had a very similar conversation with Kieran Donaghy last November after the Connacht final, and Donaghy described him as the most frustrating player in the country to watch. And it's because Shane Walsh is this mercurial talent. And I, at times when I'm looking at this, it feels harsh that you're talking about one player in this regard. But like,
it's
it was just so frustrating watching Galway let it slip away against Monaghan. Like, Monaghan are such a sticky team. They found their clutch players, McManus in normal time. McCarron had to score in injury time to win it, or extra time to win it. How Galway just didn't hold on to the ball, or just didn't get those extra points, and just it was such a blow for Connacht football.
Well, look, it is, but it is still at the same time, like, so they will be playing Division 2 football next year. That's fine. They are coming off this season the back of playing in Division 1, and so they still have that in their legs in the summer, and I'm making them favourites at the stage. Mayo are still favourites for Connacht. I actually think Nathan was saying it's better for Roscommon, that Killie O'Connor news yesterday. Like, whoever wins that game, I give a really, really good chance now of beating Mayo in the Connacht final.
I'd agree with you, because Killian O'Connor is just so important, and Paddy and Andy talk about it. His leadership, he sets their press and attack. His leadership when, you know, do you remember Cork had that purge one winter where they lost 7 or 8 really experienced footballers, and it took them so long to bounce back after that. Well, Mayo lost 6 or 7 footballers last year, but they had Lee Keegan in defence, they had Aidan O'Shea around the middle, and they had Cillian O'Connor up front, who were in that dressing room and leading the way. O'Connor's obviously going to still be around the place, but there's a reason James Horan made 9 changes against Meath and still started Cillian O'Connor, because he wanted to see how James Carr got on playing alongside him, how Brian Walsh got on playing alongside him, how the other young lads coming through. Paul Towie came on from off the bench the last 2 times. But there's no point throwing in a load of young lads if they aren't able to link up with the main player up there. So
no, good stuff.
He's such a loss.
So where can people get the podcast?
The first place to listen every week is the OTB Sports app. So if you have that, you'll get it around 5 o'clock every Wednesday, or earlier some weeks if we can get it up earlier. And it's also available wherever else you listen to your podcast. You'll get it on the Go Loud app, where Eric Donovan's new podcast has just been released. And Eoin, Let's Go Back to is out this week as well, isn't it? Have you got an episode coming out with Joe Molloy?
We do actually.
So you get that on the Go Loud app too.
The cracker this week. Lost in translation, Joe Molloy. He was weighing up whether to bring that to the table or the US office to the table. So
lip them.
Very exactly. That is the key line.
Lip them.
It's so creepy, but like.
That's just gone over my head.
What's the movie?
Yeah. It was very. It was a good episode. Worth checking out. That was just a really good. That was just. I just love your impression. I love your. I've listened to you doing a table read of that entire movie, Ger.
We could sort that out, couldn't we?
We absolutely could. Very short movie.
9:35. Go on, quick.
Sorry, I went back.
You're always giving out to us about being late, and here we are. You're making us late. Go on.
I went back and watched Glengarry and Ross after the first episode of Simon Delaney on.
Don't say the word. The main word in that movie is you're not allowed to say that on TV. Go on.
I'm just saying it took me 2 watches because I watched it on a Friday night. So it just requires so much concentration because the whole movie is about dialogue. So I was so interested in it, but I was trying so hard to stay awake on Friday that I fell asleep. So I'm back for a second watch, but I would well recommend it. It's really, really good.
That's great.
That's something that wouldn't have made the edit, Tom. That we would have cut that bit.
I'm just saying.
Cool
I'm just being
story.
honest.
Cool story,
So
Tom.
requires concentration.
Because you're tired because of all the hard work that you're doing and the commitment to your GA career. I understand what it is there. You see, we've all tired of it. We put a bow on it. Episode 6, the Football Pod with Paddy and Andy and Tommy Rooney is available to listen to right now. OTB AM live in association with Gillette. Good morning, start with Gillette. Give me the confidence to tackle the day ahead. Tomorrow morning on OTB AM, Eoin and Aisling O'Reilly are co-hosting Chris Stark of the Peter Crouch podcast. Cousins and Kilkenny stars Miriam Walsh and Porrick Walsh and Paddy McAllister on his life in rugby, and the crappy quiz live in glorious Technicolor. Right now, we're bringing you Ronan O'Gara. Enjoy.
Very happy to say Ronan O'Gara is with us. Hey, Ronan.
Yeah, Joe, how are you?
Yeah, very well, very well. So look, people think we're all very prepared here in the media and we have planned out this whole section. You have no idea what I'm going to talk to you about.
Well, that's good. It doesn't make for a change.
No, it doesn't. So listen, I was going to throw something at you. The Lions is sort of in the ether at the moment. We'll get on. I'm sure we'll talk about La Rochelle again a couple of times before the end of the season. But the Lions in the ether. And I was just thinking with you, and this is, I hope you don't mind me even saying this. When I think of the Lions with you, the 2 things which jump to mind, and probably a lot of people's minds, you can probably guess them, would be the Duncan McRae moment and the second test in South Africa. Now, we've talked to you about them a bunch before. People can listen back to it and get it on podcast or in the videos. I was hoping if we could, let's park those 2, because I know about them. I've no sense if you enjoyed your 3 Lions tours, if you found it so-so, if you're disappointed with how they went on the whole. So I was hoping to chat to you about Lions beyond McRae and beyond the second test. That was the plan for this evening, if you're up for it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to skip by them too, because the other 2 were probably, certainly the second test was a monumental moment, and that was as low as I've ever felt in rugby in the aftermath of that, as you know, for the really reasons, as I've explained, particularly with Paul being captain. And that was particularly disappointing. The 0-1, just getting the head boxed off you, that just kind of happened, and it didn't really play much on my mind. You know, it looked bad for people that don't play the game, and he lost the plot, obviously, in that moment. I should have defended myself better, obviously, but that's what happened. But there was, 3 tours, as you say, there was so much goes into all of them, and very, very special times.
Well, let's jump off an Eoin then. So you're 24 years of age. Graham Henry's obviously the coach. Donald Lennon involved as team manager.
24, I don't know I was that age, Joe, was I? Was I that old?
Yeah, you were. I thought you'd be younger as well, funny enough. You looked younger. But you're born in 77, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. So, I would have been 20. You
were 24 in March. Yeah. I see. To me, you looked about 20.
And physically, I looked about 16. But
so I have it here for people who can't remember. You played 4 tour games: Waratahs, Western Australia, New South Wales, the Brumbies. Scored 26 points. So in 01, it was you, it was a 30-year-old Neil Jenkins, and of course it was Johnny Wilkinson. So curious on being around Wilkinson. Obviously, did you have any qualms about him starting? Like, did you think, oh, fair enough, this guy's different level, or did you think you were neck and neck with him? Tell us about the Wilkinson dynamic.
He was different level. That was the eye opener for I think, to accelerate my career, that tour, because obviously 2 years later England won the World Cup, so these guys were in their prime, and most of the English pack played on the Lions test team, obviously, and there was an awful lot of them on the tour. But I think it really defined what work rate is, and appetite for perfection, and I suppose questioning, especially what happened to me in Northampton, missing those kicks and Twickenham, where you had a technique that was good, but it wasn't bulletproof. And just to watch a master at his work, which Johnny Wilkinson is with in his kicking game. There'll be other parts of it that I probably I wouldn't agree with in his approach, and we can get into that some other time, in the fact that everything is very, very methodical, while in the kicking game, in the out half position, in the phase game especially, you don't know whether you have 3 or 4 seconds to kick the ball, or you've 0.3. But everything with Johnny was, I can picture perfectly this day. You kind of spiral the ball into the ground, catch it, run 1, 2, 3, kick, run 2, 3 after the ball. You ask him to do right foot spirals, left foot spirals, and he'd absolutely put on an exhibition every time. I can remember the first week in Penny Hill Park. I think we stayed that year, and I don't think I got beyond 7 o'clock at night before I was sound asleep, which is strange, in terms of absolutely shattered, because I think we were kicking maybe at 7 a.m. at breakfast, so I was kicking probably 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. Kicking after the pitch session at midday to maybe 1:30, and then kick at the end of the day from maybe 5:30 to 6:30, dinner, shower, bed, repeat.
Yeah.
It sounds grim to a lot of people. I absolutely loved it.
And how did you get on with Wilkinson as a person?
Yeah, I got on great. I always did get on, but I think, as we know, I suppose to have the career he had, there's that obsessive factor with him, and with me as well, I suppose, to a little bit. And it would have been a really friendly relationship when we'd meet after Ireland-England games, but then because the competitor, I suppose he was more than I was, contact was at a minimum in that regard. We used to discuss a lot of kicking, and I can remember at times when he was or looking for confirmation or potential manipulation of his game, that he was in contact a few times, which was I suppose a very big compliment.
Yeah, huge. I wouldn't say he was picking the brain of many people. You mentioned how hard the Lions trained that year. So Graham Henry, he gave a really interesting interview a couple of years ago on New Zealand radio. I was listening to it, and he was saying of that Lions series, I wasn't ready for the Lions. We could have done so much better if I'd been better as a coach. And he was also coaching Wales still at the time then. Matt Dawson, I'm sure you remember all this, but just to jog people's memories, Matt Dawson even, like in his diary, slammed the preparation. He said like it was a unbelievably harsh regime. They were treating the players like children, and I think one or two other players said, we worked incredibly hard. you mentioning there how hard you worked kind of triggered that in my mind. So Graham Henry and how the tour was run, was it tough going and unenjoyable? Like we hear that about 05 a lot. Was 01 tough going as well in that respect?
Oh no, it was a dream. It was a dream tour for me, and the fact that I think that question have a different. I suppose the potential responses to that question would be so varied, Joe, and the fact that a 24-year-old to a guy who is on a second tour or experienced can give probably a valuable input. For me, I had probably been selected ahead of Gregor Towns, and I was absolutely buzzing. It meant everything to me. This is when you dream of playing for Cork, then you go for Munster, then you play for Ireland, then the greatest of all is going on the Lions tour. So I was living it. I don't remember Graham Henry ever. Phil Lardner, the defence coach, got stuck into me a few times in training, but that was obviously to be expected because I needed to work on that side of my game, and there was no softly approach with Phil. It was kind of, you mean the north of England, get into these guys, and he got into it. But that was perfect. I like that approach. I maybe I was naive, but I think that didn't register one bit with me. No, I think it was for me. It was a fantastic period to grow my game, and it culminated with an unbelievable game against the Brumbies. I think it was where we came from behind to beat them in a great game. And I mean, it doesn't have to be a test match for you to have that, I suppose, inner battle of you getting the best out of yourself. And for me, I think it definitely accelerated my development by a number of years.
05, you're 28 years of age, you're in New Zealand, you play 6 matches there and you get your Lions test appearance in the 3rd test as a sub, and then in 09 obviously you're 32. The common factor in 05 and in 09 is Stephen Jones. So Wilkinson is playing at 12, as you'll remember, in 05, and I guess it's you and Jones on the 05 tour and on the 09 tour looking for that 10 jersey. I was just doing a bit of reading. You had a good relationship with Jones. This didn't get too messy or too unhealthy a rivalry.
No, because it has nothing to do with Stephen Jones nor any of the players going on this tour. The coaching staff will have their idea of the team, and as I know I'm a coach, we can get it wrong spectacularly as well, and it's only your opinion or this group of players. If there was to be a Lions team picked in the morning by a different coaching group, you can be sure that it wouldn't be unanimous at all or anywhere near that, I would think, especially nowadays with the choice out there. But I had a very good relationship with Stephen Jones, very good relationship with Johnny Wilkins. You spend a lot of time with these players, and within 3 days, once you realise what the Lion stands for, you become very, very attached to it, to achieving something as a group. And you look at the 97 team, what they did, and probably the ultimate, what that group of players has done. But 05, I was playing more on the midweek team, obviously, in that. We had a good run of games, but like Johnny Wilkinson was playing 10, and there's no question, or he was 10 and 12. And as you appreciate too, I suppose Gats was the coach, Stephen Jones was his 10. I see how that works. 09, I felt I was after winning 2 European Cups in 06 and 08, Grand Slam, before we went on that trip. I was flying, and I was probably pretty confident I'd be picked for the first test, and then I didn't get selected. That was shattering. I remember Lions was poor in the first half, and I was certain I'd come on at half-time, no nod. And, I often question myself, was that decision at the end of the second test due to frustration, trying to force your hand? But I think I was pretty knocked up at that stage. But that's not an excuse, I don't think. With the execution and the decision making, I wouldn't change. But of the kick, the timing of the jump is something that you'd like to have back.
And 09 then, because that was the one where I thought, geez, you might have a bit of a grievance about not starting. In the warm-up games,
was.
Jones was playing a few, you were playing a few. Did you feel like you were playing okay? Did it come as a bit of a surprise to you? Can you remember getting the news from McGeechan, I presume it was, that you weren't starting, or how did that go ahead of the first test?
Yeah, no, I got named, I think, captain for the game on the Wednesday night. So
okay,
that was,
it's a bad sign.
that is the one captaincy you don't want. So that was brilliant, but oh no.
And you said shattering.
Shattering, yeah.
Probably because you know this is it. At 32, it's now or never.
Yeah, of course, yeah, and I think you have to be realistic in 01 and 05. You know what I mean? In 01, not a chance of playing, and rightly so. Brilliant to be on the tour. 05, Johnny Wilkinson was there, but after the first test, you could see that was probably one of the best, if not the best, New Zealand teams of a long, long time. And when Dan gave that exhibition in the cake tin, you could just see that they were there's a big difference in class here. So from that point of view, you didn't feel like you were missing out, you know, because if you're playing, you want to be winning.
Yeah.
In 09, it's very, very different. I had worked for 4 years to try and play, not play, but I suppose dominate a test game, but that didn't happen, especially at altitude. It was so easy to kick the ball. It was so like in where Morley Stain plays his home ground, and the Bulls, what's the name of that, Joe? Loftus, is it?
I think so. I'll double check.
So I remember kicking the morning of the game, and it was like, oh wow, this is going to be, I need to get a taste of this, because it was just so easy to kick.
05 is talked about as a tough tour, you know, single rooms, massive squad, the dirt trackers on one bus, the main lads on the other bus. Did you find all of that difficult? I don't hear many people saying good things about 05.
Yeah, they got it wrong. It was particularly, you should never room as players on your own, I think. I think there's potential cases if you're away for more than 3 months and you'd like a little bit of time for, if you have family, to Skype your kids and stuff. But I think you create great relationships and important time together in the room with whoever you're rooming with. And
yeah.
I still remember the guys I roomed with in 01. And
go on, give us the roommates that jump to your mind now from any of the 2 tours, I guess, that you did room. Who did you click with?
I clicked with a lot of them, but I can remember in 01 it was, I think, I started with Mike Cat, went to Mac Dawson, went to Rob Howley, to Will Greenwood. So a lot of the backs, you know. And then 05, it was you could feel, but when you're part of that tour and you're in the bubble, it looks far worse to the people on the outside, because you're trying to prepare and give yourself the best chance. But like towards the end of that tour, everyone was just, the team spirit was gone.
And of Henry's, say, plan, and then into Woodward's, and then what you did in 09, was the game plan pretty similar? Would it change a lot? Was it pretty easy to get your head around because it had to be easy because you wouldn't have much time together?
You have more time than you thought. I think, like, if you had 2 weeks preparation, that's a lot of time in terms of game plan, Joe. There's a few ways you can play it, but after a few meetings, you'd want to be getting the plan. You know, it's never too complicated. I don't think that was the reason. 01 was definitely a Lions test series that should have been won. 05 was a mismatch. 09, we could have won, and it would have been brilliant. But I think, I suppose the common in 09, it was a lot of Warren's plans and playing, but the thing about Gats is he always gave you, I suppose, authority or autonomy to play the game as you saw it as well, especially as a number 10.
And did you like, were you being away, were you a good tourist? Did you like hanging out in the team room and, you know, say to Matt Dawson or Will Greenwood, who you might know that well, let's go get a coffee. Did you really enjoy all that, or was it too much of a sickener not starting? What kind of a tourist were you?
No, I did, of course, but this is the Lions, Joe. This is unbelievable. This is what you work every day for. This is where you want to be. This isn't tough. It was disappointing because you're not getting the results. But like, if you were winning, everything would have been rosy. But like going to New Zealand in winter, in the depths of winter after a long season, it's tough. But I think, as the boys in 17 showed, it can be done.
The 09 one seems to have been a lot of fun, a little bit old school again.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I think Paulie really got the respect of the players and of the group, and he got the tone right, and he had, music and beers and jokes and just easygoing, natural fun. And a lot of the Welsh boys like a good laugh, and they were very much on board, and I think they were fascinated with Paul's speeches. And it really, Mike Phillips and Andy Powell were really broke the ice, and it was a very, I suppose, connected group, which is the ultimate compliment. It was a team that played for each other, and as you saw in that second test, the physicality of it, people really went hard for each other.
Yeah, that second test talked about maybe the most physical most of those players had been involved in.
Yeah, it was. I've seen a few of the images, and some of the shots put on were incredible.
Did your size go against you for selection in 09, like big South African team? Is that what their thinking was, do you think?
I don't know, size got to it. Maybe defence came into it.
Well, yeah, I sort of meant that as well, yeah.
You can say that, Joe. I won't be offended.
No. Well, it's, I mean, a perception. Obviously, size, defence goes hand in hand. They were probably fearful of giants
absolutely,
running down your channel.
Yeah, exactly. But you got to make your tackles. Obviously, I missed one for their try. Got bounced, but I think that was probably the fifth guy in a row. But I'm sure that was probably if you're in that selection meeting, that was probably my Achilles heel. There's no doubt about that, because running the game or and kicking would have been strengths, especially at attitude. But I get it too, in the fact that if it was my Irish coach coaching the Lions, I'm sure I would have been starting 10.
Yeah, that does tend to be a factor. So on the whole, because at the start I parked, okay, the McRae thing you said isn't that big a deal. I'm sure the second test in South Africa in 09 is still a huge disappointment. So I parked them at the start. If we bring them back into the picture then and ask you for your overall feeling about the Lions, it still sounds like ultimately this was a massive deal for you. Like, this was the dream. You really, really enjoyed it, even if you didn't get quite to be the main man you would have loved to be on one of the tours. It doesn't seem like that kind of tainted it for you in a huge way, which I was wondering, would it?
I think with a bit of, I suppose, distance between the events, you'd be pretty happy with going on 3 Lions tours, but you'd be devastated with the way the second test ended. I mean, that was a big moment in a massive sporting occasion, and that I let a lot of people down, and that doesn't sit easily with you. But it's not the first time I've done that, and it won't be the last time I've done that. So that's what happens, I think, when the better you are as a sports person, the more, I suppose, times you put yourself in these positions that you're going to fail. It happened in Twickenham recently. It happened in as a player in 09, and it happened after 09, and it'll happen again.
Yeah. But like, you can't look at it that way either. It's one moment of a million moments across 2 games. It happened to be at the end, but you can't say you let everyone down. You can't think that way either.
No, but my moment was the key moment, and that's, you don't brush it under the carpet either, Joe. I think that's been a good thing over the years. You learn really important lessons from it, and it makes you better, it makes you stronger, and it gives you the appetite to go again. And that's what you intend doing. But you've got to take the rough with the smooth.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm sure we'll probably touching the lines at some stage over the next few weeks with everything going on. Remind me, La Rochelle, obviously, regular season is over. You skipped the quarter-final weekend. Is it semi-final weekend this weekend?
Yeah, we're 48 hours out, Joe.
Okay, great.
So, massive weekend, Joe. Everyone's off to Lille. 2 semi-finals are in Lille on Friday night. Friday night we play Racing. Saturday night, Toulouse play Bordeaux. And the final in Stade de France the following Friday. So it's something that now.
Well, I'm not going to jinx you. I'm only talking to you when you win the whole thing outright, all right? That's the plan. No, seriously, best of luck. Huge game, obviously. Really hope it goes well for you, and we'll keep an eye out.
Come on. Thanks,
all right,
Joe.
see you later. Ron Nagara there.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new